Hey, what's happening, gamers? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to Batman Arkham Origins DLC. This is going to be the Brightest Day campaign and all that fun stuff. So, last night, this was supposed to occur, but I was depressed over the low numbers. I buried my grandma that day, and I had been in the car for a total of 10 hours. So, I was pretty messed up last night. Amber was like, "Are you going to stream?" And I looked at my phone, which I can see all the data for the channel, and I mummered something to Amber, and then I went to bed. Because I was just like, there's no way streaming is going to be able to bring up the numbers. The channel shot to Hades today, and, you know, I'm depressed over everything else that happened, so no, I'm not doing anything. And Amber's like, okay, and Amber came upstairs, she snuggled with me, and we woke up the next day. That's the true story. But anyway, we've been working our butts off today. We did 4 streams of Donkey Kong. And just to put this in perspective for you, our channel was at, after 48 hours for one day, was at 41,000 views. Which is bad. That's right, Zelda. Today, after working our butt off, we were able to get the channel up to 57,000 views after 48 hours. So we more or less mended the damage that was done. Maybe. Or at least we put a soft pillow under it. I don't know. We tried, but it was a lot of work.
It's like in The Rocketeer where the channel is leaking gasoline.
We put gum on it. Yes.
What we did was we chewed some gum and stuck it on there.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. That's it exactly. We put gum on the channel.
Yeah.
To stop the leak.
Wow.
That was Zelda's meow.
Thank you, Richard, for renewing your ultimate. You're breathtaking, Richard. Thank you so much. Yeah, Zelda's pretty cute. Thank you, Richard. You're breathtaking. Thank you for the help.
What I'm noticing about this is, like, Arkham Origins actually does not have that many challenge maps. What they do is they take, like, the 5 existing challenge maps and then they repeat them and they label extreme on them and make them harder, but they don't really have a variation of challenge maps.
Yeah, I do feel better. Thanks, Mistiano. I told Luke what happened last stream, so I feel better now.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, thank you, Alpha, for the super chat, and also you had a super chat at the beginning of the stream, Luke. Somebody super chat and I can't scroll up enough to see it. The blue one you missed.
The blue one? Steven?
Yeah.
Alright, thank you, Steven, for
thank
the
you,
super
Steven,
chat.
and thank you, Alpha.
Alright, let's do this. Let's get back into punching things in the face.
Yeah, Luke has a good effect on me where I feel better.
Enjoy this.
You made the right call. I would have done it too. So you're fine.
No,
I probably would have gone into more detail.
No, I haven't even talked about that. I was talking about how I was frustrated with people asking me to add them and stuff.
Yeah, and just in hindsight, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. I don't remember when people ask me to add me to my game system. Like, I have so many people that ask. The best way that you can get added to, like, a Fortnite or a Marvel Rival stream is make sure you tell me your name in the game. Your PlayStation ID is irrelevant. And we can't add your PlayStation ID anyway.
And also, like, leaving a comment, I've explained this so many times, leaving a comment would be better than doing it on the live stream because there's so much stuff happening on the live stream, it's very stressful, there's so many people asking questions, and if I've already been asked like 20 questions that day and I'm exhausted, then the 21st question that someone asks me, I'm not going to want to add you because I'm already exhausted. I'm dealing with so much on the live stream, like, so it would be so much easier. Like, if you left a comment, then I can see it at my leisure and literally go through and add you.
Wow, you're a trooper. You haven't slept at all.
Luke, I usually get up at 7 in the morning and go until like 10 at night.
Oh,
or,
it's
or
only
9:30.
You're right. It's only 10 at night still. I'm sorry.
You were up earlier than me though today. You were up at 5.
Yeah.
You were up all night, I think. When did you wake up? 3?
No. I went to bed with you, and then my alarm woke me up at 6.
Yeah, so you were up at 6 in the morning, and then I got up at 7.
And then I took a nap from 7 o'clock until now.
Well, I appreciate. Thanks for caring so much, Miss Hannah. You're so sweet.
Doggone it.
You know, I kind of vented a bit on my last stream about stuff. Thank you, Richard, for the super chat. My Kim's, you're breathtaking. Lincoln Zelda, you're breathtaking. Eat a pasta right now. Always happy to help. Thank you for your help. Richard, you're breathtaking.
Thank you, Richard. You rock. Really helped it. I can't speak anymore. Give me a minute to wake up, guys. Give me a minute. My head is swimming. I'm medicated and my head is swimming. So I need a minute to get these thoughts out where they belong. Correct.
Whenever you up a second, I'm gonna get it.
Oh yeah, of course. Just one second. Just let me finish this
Oh,
round.
actually, never mind. I got my gum wrapper here.
Oh, you needed a tissue for your gum.
Yeah, I actually have the gum wrapper right here, so I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just.
All right. What was the question?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I don't mind. It's like if, like, I already tried to explain it. Like, if somebody says like, "Oh, I tried to add you. You said you would add me last week. Could you try again?" Or would you be able to try this stream to add me? That's fine. But like, people just saying like, "You promised you would add me and you didn't." It's like, okay, I don't promise that. That's exactly the reason why I never do that, because I know I've been online for a long time. I know that people will come after me and accuse me of not adding them, which is exactly why I never say that.
Amber had a user for years drive her crazy with that kind of stuff, so that she doesn't have a lot of like patience when it comes to that.
It's like if people just say if people ask me nicely, like, I will do almost anything for people that ask me nicely, but people that say, like, you said you would do this and you never did, like, I don't, like, it would be better to say that in a comment than on the stream, because on the stream, I am very stressed out already, and for me, it's, like, trying to make me look bad in front of everyone. Like, it's like if I was Santa in the Elf movie, and Will Ferrell was like, "You're sitting on a throne of lies. You're not the real Santa." Well, I'm trying to do my job and be Santa for the kids. That's what it feels like. Like, you're calling me out in front of everyone and saying I don't do a good job of adding people. Like, while I'm trying to stream. It's like, please don't do that, because, like, you know, like, whether that's true or not, whether I am not perfect, but please don't say it in the stream. Like, you're stressing me out. Like, never. I don't know if anyone understands what I'm saying, but it is stressful. Anyway, I'm done.
Oh, we cleared. Okay, cool. I thought I messed up quite a bit, but we cleared. Oh, we're still going.
I've had a lot of. You don't even know. I used to stream on Twitch all the time. I streamed Splatoon. I streamed that weird Cars game. I streamed Overwatch. I've streamed a lot of multiplayer games. I've done tons of games. Like,
Oh, you guys are... Yeah. The Red Ranger anime is really fun. I haven't finished the episode with Amber yet. I mean, I've watched it. I watched it the day it came out. But Amber's seen about 19 minutes. No.
Yeah, I'll watch the rest later.
15 minutes. She's going to watch the rest later.
Be...
It's really good. I highly recommend it. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, I don't think... yeah, that's very kind of you, Blake, and it's okay. I just, you know, and I should just not talk about it. That was my problem with venting. Every time I vent, then someone will ask. It's like a test from God or something. I will say, I don't like it when people do this, and then as soon as I'm done talking about it, someone does that exact thing. And it's like God is testing me to see if I'll react right, and I usually don't. I need to be better.
Oh.
So I will. And like I told the person, I said, that might be better if you ask Luke about it, because I have tried to explain to people that you have more patience than me. Like, you have much more patience than me. Like,
To an extent.
you are much more likely, like, if someone yells at you and be like, man, I watched you for all these years and you never added me on this and you said you would. Like, for me, that would trigger me very hard because I'd be like, wow, you really accuse me of this right now? Wow.
I don't think like that, but also I don't remember people asking.
Whereas, like, Luke, if you said that to him, he'd be like, oh, he only translates that to, like, oh, this person wants me to add them, and then he'll try to figure it out. But me, I'm like, wow, did you just accuse me of that? Is that what just happened here? So, like I've tried to explain, you would probably get way further with Luke than me if you were, like, having a problem, like you're angry or something. Like, I'm not trying to say send all your angry problems to Luke, but I'm saying, you know, if you think you're gonna get farther with me, like on a Disney Dreamlight Valley stream where I'm like, hi everyone, it's Disney Dreamlight Valley, and today we're decorating the trees. And then someone's like, hey, you said you would do this and you never did. You suck and you're bad at life. And it's like, then I'll be like, I see. One moment, everyone.
Well, I let
then I'm like really upset.
I let people to some extent.
Yeah, like,
but
you
I don't. If
you don't let people walk all over
no,
you.
if they cuss me out or they're being super rude, then yeah, I completely ignore them. I'm like, no. Yeah. But if somebody was like, hey, you know, I watched you all these years and it'd be great to be able to play with you, it's like, okay, I'll make a mental note of it, and then I forget.
Right, but it's like a mental note. Like, people have to remind us. Like,
yeah.
That's what I was trying to explain. Like, how is it my job? Like, unless someone's paying me extra money to do that, like, I don't get paid per person I add to my account. And I have to work very hard. Like, I already have so many other duties, like, that I'm actually, like, I have to, like, that's an extra thing. Like, playing with more people online is an extra thing. I don't get paid per person I play with online. Like, it's not part of my job. It's something I was going to do to be nice. So, yeah, exactly. But anyways, I don't want to bring it into this stream. I'm just sitting here watching you play Batman.
Dark Knight Crusader, I don't know what you're asking me. I don't...
As soon as I vent, that's what you do.
What did I do?
Oh, never mind. He's asking about Batman. Never mind.
Yeah, but I don't know what he's asking.
Look, what do you think about the better leader there and understanding how to take Batman, Scarecrow, or Hugo Strange?
You're all going down.
I don't know. And also, just so you guys know, like I kind of got triggered. Like, people were asking only Luke what he thought about Donkey Kong. I was venting about this. Like, I don't mind if you guys ask Luke about Batman. I'm not playing the game. I'm just saying it's when I was playing the game of Donkey Kong, that's when I was triggered, because you don't have to ask me. I don't know everything. I mean, if you want to ask me about Batman, that's fine, but I know that I'm not the Batman expert. So it doesn't trigger me if you don't include me, because I'm just here watching the play. It doesn't bother me. It's just like, yeah, that doesn't bother me. It's just like when I'm also playing the game, like in our morning streams or whatever, and people only ask Luke, that kind of triggers me, because it's like I wasn't even there. Like, so yeah, it's just very strange.
He's asking about the Arkham games. Can somebody sum up what his question means, and then I'll try to answer it as best I can?
Well, I should probably go to sleep.
Like, just a Cliff Notes version, and then I can try to answer it as best as I can. I mean, they said that the Justice League members would be clones. It's just the way that they handled the entire plot and narrative of the game was handled so sloppily that I just don't care. Like, it was a mess. It was an honest to God mess. There's so many problems with it. Wait, does that knock out Smash? Yeah, we're fine. We can jam Detective Vision as much as we want. Yeah. Detective Vision is scrambled. The fact that they had Harley Quinn, actress, voice every character at the end for a graphic motion comic thing just shows you that, I mean, all they did was they tried to please, like, the dissenting voices, who, you know, had a right to be upset to begin with, and they just made an entire mockery of everything. And even their ending is a mockery of everything. It's just like, you know, so I mean, let Rome burn. I really don't care what's going on with Rocksteady anymore because they made a really crappy product. And I was a little annoyed by my friend Arkham Videos because he made a statement that is a complete contradiction to what he's told me in private about the game. And I'm just like...
That's weird.
So I'm the only one who hated the game now? It's like... And you don't work for WB. I didn't confront him or anything. I read his post and I was just like... He and I have been talking about that game for months and he told me he hated the narrative. Like, absolutely hated it. And he never said anything about the game, like, you know, because of, like, the political, like, ideology or anything. He just said he really hated the story. And so his
it's
post...
like everyone did, though.
His post today was so, like, PR damage control for Rocksteady that it took me by surprise because I'm just like, I've had a theory for years that AV is multiple people running it. So, I mean, I don't know if that's the guy that I know really well or if that's, like, somebody who's running his Twitter.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting what you said, Jade Rose. Like, sometimes I feel like I should comment in the chat more, but I just enjoy listening to Luke and Amber. I was just actually talking about that today with Luke and saying, like, today I said, there are a lot of people that comment in the chat, but for every one person that comments in the chat, there's 10 lurkers that are not commenting. And I said, you know, like our older videos, we didn't have the chat going. We just talked to ourselves and, you know, had fun with each other playing. And that's what I was trying to gear the Donkey Kong videos towards, was just having fun with each other playing. And, you know, once in a while we were looking down and saying hi, but mainly I was just trying to focus on making a good playthrough and having fun. And, like, a lot of you guys say really nice things in the chat. However, like, there is a lot of, like, things. If I look in the chat, there's a lot of people saying, you know, even hidden comments that are grayed out, that are, like, really mean, or, like, people criticizing or having a problem, or, like... And it's like, if I just focus on hanging out with Luke and talking to Luke, then the people that are lurking... You know, I really feel like the views go up because, you know, once in a while, you know, respond to a nice comment that I see. But once, you know, generally just hanging out with Luke and just having fun playing the game, I think that, you know, I think that makes a higher quality video when it's just concentrating on having fun and not worrying about all of the, everything that, you know, I'm supposedly doing wrong in the game, or all the criticisms, or why didn't you check the barrel. And instead of that, just hanging out with Luke and just talking to him about his day and having fun. I don't know if Luke heard me or not, because he's looking at the chat.
I did hear you. It's just, can we all just finally admit that the problem with the Suicide Squad was not the live service? The problem with the Suicide Squad was its story, its narrative, the way that they ruined the Arkham canon. That's what got people upset.
Yeah.
Like, they're being completely, like, delusional in thinking that the reason why their game failed is that they didn't take something that millions of people cared about and crumpled it up like a piece of paper. There are millions of people around the world that loved Arkham because of its story, and they basically peed all over the story. So I think people have a right to be upset and call them out on their crap. I really do, because the live service thing is an excuse. Is that a problem that was in the game? Yeah. But it's not the core reason why Arkham fans literally hate to death the Suicide Squad. They took existing canon and they took a dump on it. And people are mad. And people have a right to be angry. I have a right to be angry.
Oh, you were listening about the speed limit story. Thanks, Alpha. Yeah, it's like, actually, years ago, and I'm sorry, Richard said he's on medication too for
I'm sorry,
being sick.
I'm sorry you're not feeling well, Richard.
I will say, am I allowed to say what I was talking to you about earlier about the ending to the Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
When I listened to that, you know, and I remember being in line to get the signature of Kevin Conroy, and I remember Tara Strong was there, and she was in the line next to us, and she's a very, she gets lots of parts, and she's very famous voice actress and everything, but I don't know how to say this, but I feel like, I don't know, I guess I can feel disappointed with her because her agreeing, I mean, I understand it's probably in her contract to voice that ending, but I just feel like there has been people that, like, for instance, like,
I think it's the only person
like,
they could get who wanted to have anything to do with the game.
Think about, like, Mark Hamill. Like, even though it was in his contract to make Luke Skywalker terrible, he was heartbroken over it. It was hurting him to ruin the character in that way.
Well, he cared about the character.
And I just feel like Tara Strong, like, maybe she doesn't care about the character Harley Quinn very much, but the character Harley Quinn used to be very cute and sweet and, just lovable, and people just fell in love with that character. Even the Arkham Harley Quinn, and, even the girl that voiced before her really made Harley Quinn amazing in the animated series. And I just feel like, like, there's been several actors that, like, even Michael Keaton, like, when he read that script of the one Batman movie, he didn't want to do it. He just left.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wish there were more actors like that would just look at the script of the Suicide Squad and be like, I'm a really famous actress. I'm the only one who can play Harley Quinn, but this script is terrible. I'm not doing this. Mm-hmm. That's what I felt when I listened to the end of that, because I just felt like I'm so sick of people being like, well, it was in their contract. They were getting paid. It's like, well, they could have said something. They could have said, this script sucks. Like, it's terrible. Like, I'm not voicing this. I mean, there's so many people that could have protested. Any of the voice actors, any of the people making the animation, any of the people writing the story, any of the people working the character models, any of the people coding the game or doing the music. I mean, there could have been so many people in that game that could have said something and, and been like, I wanted to work on this game, but this is disrespectful to the, Justice League characters, and I think this is going to hurt a lot of people that look up to them as heroes, and I don't think this is right to make a game like this. This is just wrong. There's something wrong with it. I'm not going to do it. So I just feel like I don't have any problem with, I've never heard anything bad about Tara Strong, but I do wish that her being the kind of elite voice actress she is, I do wish she would have, protested and not, I mean, she did a great job voicing the character in other things. Why could she not understand that this ruined the character so much compared to the other time she voiced Harley? How could she not see the difference between this Harley and all the other ones she voiced? Of course, there was a terrible animated cartoon at one point with Harley, but other than that, I wish to some actors, I wish it was more than just a job. I wish it was like, I care about this character, I want to make this character look good, I want to make a good piece of art in a way, because games are a form of art. I don't know, I wish that some actors and even anyone working on the game would have more standards and just either walk away, or if they're not allowed to walk away, at least look sad while doing it. At least write, cryptic tweets and being like, oh, I'm conflicted about this, but this is my job. I wish you would at least see anguish on their face and realize that they're having a hard time doing it because they're ruining the character. And in a way, I respect Mark Hamill so much, even though he had to play that character that way for Disney. He didn't have a choice because he was under contract. He didn't enjoy doing it, and he didn't pretend he enjoyed doing it. And like you said, like with the person you were talking about who made the post, and I don't want to go into it so much, but I wish some YouTubers would, like, instead of pretending that they enjoyed playing the game when they really didn't, just so that people, I think that they're just afraid. They don't have a...
Let me clarify. He enjoyed the gameplay of the game, but the canon, like for me, made him very upset. He didn't like how Batman was, killed off the way he was. he thought the story was all over the place and it wasn't to the same degree as Arkham stuff, which is correct. Like, the writing was... The difference between the writing... Like, Arkham Knight was written by a professional. Like, you know, somebody who was probably a relatively new writer to video games, but they gave it their all. And the person who wrote the Suicide Squad feels like it was made by a grade schooler. So you went from professional level writing to a grade schooler, where everything was a joke.
They said that no one can really like Arkham games, and no one would really want a first-person Arkham game anymore. And Arkham Shadow completely proved them wrong, that everyone would be fine with that.
Now, did Arkham Shadow and the Suicide Squad release the same year? I think they did.
Possible.
I believe so. So, Arkham Shadow proved that you could still make an Arkham game in the 2020s that people would really like. And, you know... And Suicide Squad proved that if you ruin something that people love, there will be hell to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't sit there for... I mean, you watch a 2-hour movie, and you're watching the characters for 2 hours. If you hate the movie, it was just 2 hours of your life wasted. If you're playing a game for weeks on end, and you hate the characters, and they were poorly written, it's weeks of your life wasted. Because it's just... The game is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be enjoying it. When the characters are just toxic and, like, just annoying and, like, just very... I don't know if I should use... That word toxic is overused, but basically, like, they're just, mean. Like, they're mean, they're...
Isn't that what toxic means?
I guess. I don't know how to say it, but they're just, you know, very... The characters are unlikable. And just, you know, just awful, basically.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. So I think, like, a game is much more important. The story is much more important than the game. Like, a lot of people today say the narrative of a game doesn't matter. It's the gameplay that matters. But I would say the opposite. I'd say the narrative actually matters more on a game because you're playing it longer. Some RPGs you're playing for months.
Yep.
You don't want to play an RPG for months that you hate the characters. You're not going to play that for very long.
You're very smart, Amber. You get it. You understand. You do. You understand. And Amber has a unique, like, point of view because she comes from, like, what most members of the general audience are like, you know, just like gamers who play when they can. Like, she has that, like, you know, big mindset about that instead of, like, someone who's, like, a core, like, you know, gamer fan. So even her response to all of it, like, this is ridiculous that they did this and this doesn't make sense because, you know, all this stuff.
Well, I'm just thinking of comparing it to what I normally watch, which is movies. That's my main media that I watch.
Mm-hmm.
I probably watch more movies than play games, and...
Yep.
And even sitting through a 2-hour movie of characters that I hate, I can't even sit through. I can tell you a story right now that I'd never watched the movie of because I hated it, and I'm never gonna watch it because it's so annoying. That movie that is like Me Before You. That movie about the guy in a wheelchair, and the whole point of it is that he Minecrafts himself so she doesn't have to take care of him anymore because she loves him. She wants to take care of him. He's in a wheelchair, and the whole premise of the movie, I already saw the end of it, so I didn't watch it because I thought, this is awful. This is an awful story. Her whole thing is she wants to take care of him, and he's in a wheelchair, and he doesn't want to burden her, so he literally Minecrafts himself or something. What a horrible, 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 horrible thing to write a story about. Who would ever want to sit through 2 hours of that? Not me. And that's that's why I'm saying, like, a storyline in which, you know, Batman ends up getting, you know, basically you know, blown up in the face with blood all over him, knowing that that's the end of the movie or that's the end of the game. Who would ever... And with you know, if I could describe the Suicide Squad, what's wrong with it? I mean, it's very simple. Like, Batman is blown up, his blood all over his face, and literally tortured to death in a way.
He was tortured, actually.
And laughed at, and then And then Harley, who is the leader of the group, is, you know, they take every part of her that made her likable away. She's not pretty anymore.
Yep.
She's awful. She's much more crass. Her voice isn't even as nice anymore.
Nope.
The way that they had Tara voice her, they made her voice sound way worse. She acts like a man in her joking around, so it's like extremely crass and butch the way that she acts.
Like potty humor.
Yeah, she acts like a between a man and also between a 5-year-old child. And there's a lot of very crass humor coming from, you know, Captain Boomerang and all this. And the whole thing is a mockery of the Justice League, saying everything you love about the Justice League, about truth, justice, and taking care of people and defending people. We're going to not only make fun of them, but we're also just going to make fun of those ideas as well. Like that all your heroes and all your ideas about defending people and doing the right thing and being the better person, that all these ideas are just jokes, and that there's no good in the world. There is no right and wrong, and all of your heroes probably in real life also are no one. And there probably is no good in the world in real life either. That's basically what the game was saying. And then they made it fun to torture the people to death that tried to stand up for truth, justice, and caring about people and defending people. I mean, if whoever would want to watch a movie like that, I wouldn't, much less play a game with that kind of story to it. It's just horrible. Like, it's just... I mean, it's harder to watch than Christopher Walken playing that ape in The Jungle Book. And that was hard to watch for me. I walked out of the theater because he was scary as that ape. He terrified me. His eyes were staring into my soul. I thought I was going to get possessed.
Oh, no.
So I left.
What goes up? Oh, I hate what goes up. What goes up sucks. What goes up is super annoying. You have to plant bombs on the ladder so that they blow themselves up.
Only enjoyable character was King Shark, says Raspberry.
King Shark was fun. Yeah.
But I just... like that one movie that I will never watch. I would never watch it because I think what an awful premise, that instead of taking care of somebody in a wheelchair, they're gonna help you out by eating themselves. What a horrible thing to say. I would never watch a movie like that. And in the same way, I would never watch, if Suicide Squad was a movie, I would never watch it because it was just a horrible premise.
Alright, you three. Make your boss happy. Kill this bastard slow.
So now we're gonna have to try to blow these guys up.
This guy's a freaking menace. No wonder the
Well, I mean, I was even talking about that today, that a lot of your old Batman videos, you actually, like, you would talk like a person who's been in comics for a long time, and then you would read me the whole thing. And then you would be like, is there any part of this you don't understand what I'm saying? And then I would explain to you parts that were hard for me to understand what you were saying, and then you did sometimes add stuff in there so that, like, the general audience who was listening to your video could understand certain things.
I kept my Batman lore very simplistic.
Yeah, like Luke actually edited some of his Batman lore so people like me, or people that didn't know everything about the comics. So, like, that's why, like, a lot of people say, oh, you haven't really been on the Nightmares 1 channel, but I have. Like, this whole time, I mean, I'm not obviously speaking on all the videos, but I mean, Luke said I was a great help to him, and him reading all his scripts to me.
I could have used, like, fancy words and stuff, but for one, New Yorkers don't talk like that. Like, a certain type of people, like, speak, like, very articulate and stuff like that when they're describing stuff, because they're trying to make people, like, they're trying to break stereotypes that gamers aren't smart, so they basically crack open a thesaurus and they like use so many different words to describe one thing. And if you listen very carefully to a lot of like these very well, made videos, there's a lot of like self-gratification in it, and like also explaining, okay, this is what I feel about this, and blah 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 blah. But they're circling around the subject, just like using fancier words to cover it up. When I did my reviews and I did my lore, I don't repeat points.
Yeah.
But I also explain it in a way that the everyday man could understand. That's why I taught so many people about Batman for like 10 years, is because I kept it, simple to understand.
Right.
Just like a person was talking to you, like just a normal, like you're having like a beer with some guy or something.
You're like not trying to act, you're not trying to like impress people with like, you're trying not to add flourishy, fancy words to it. You're just saying it matter of fact.
Right. And I think part of the reason too why a lot of game journalists fell off is because they were trying so hard to use that, that degree of theirs to, fluff up their words. And gamers look at that and they're just kind of like, you lose that trust with your install base, because they just want to, they want to know what you honestly feel about the game, and they're talking in circles before they get to the point. And also, they're very, very cautious about adding any type of, like, not necessarily negativity, but criticism. They dance around the criticism to the point where there really is no criticism.
It's like, instead of actually making a point or even saying one statement, they just add a tremendous amount of words to say something that could have been said in like 3 words. But they just added tons more words in there to sound fancy. It's almost like their fancy words are trying to give them clout so that they can like sound cooler than they are. When in reality, if you actually boil down what they're saying, they're not saying very much at all.
Correct.
Exactly.
That was very well put. Okay, we're gonna try this again.
This guy's got a real attitude problem.
Yeah, I was just thinking all the time.
Who's over there? Yeah!
Go down, go down, go down. And hopefully he gets blown up this time.
Whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, but I do.
We got trouble. Whatever it is, Batman's behind it.
Shoot.
You trying to piss me?
Oh man, he went all red. The goal was we were trying to get that idiot to go. This is what always takes forever. I'm not very good at this part. We're supposed to blow the guy up who comes up the stairs.
It's like listening to those people using all those flourishy words where they just add in all those multi-syllable words, just randomly adding them in when they don't even need, it's unnecessary what they're adding extra words in just to sound fancy when it's unnecessary to even say that in that way. Like a lot of those people, when people subscribe to their channel, they're like, wow, this person sounds so smart. Wow. But then at the end of the day, when you come away from their video, do you remember anything or even understand anything they were saying? Probably not. Whereas if a person would just say it in a normal manner, then you would probably understand a lot better what they were saying. Like, they don't care if people understand. They don't care if anyone understands their point. They just want to sound fancy and if people subscribe. Are they actually trying to teach anyone anything? Not really.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, I mean, I made just like when I did my writings as a game journalist, I went through and I did my stuff the way that I was going to do it.
It's like when I took like, I just was thinking that one teacher you like, Mr. Heinrich from our school. When I took his astronomy class, in the way that he said it, he made it very simple. Like, instead of making himself sound smarter than he was, which he was smart because he's teaching astronomy, he was like, here's an orange, and imagine the stuff rotating around it. Here's the solar system. He's explaining it to the class in a very simple way so that they can learn. That's how teachers explain. They don't use all this extra flourishing language because it just confuses you. If you're trying to learn, you don't want to learn it in a complicated way. You want the simplest answer is usually the best.
Yep. That's correct.
It's my personal mission in life.
It's such a long, dragged out process. It's super annoying. Alright, so the way that we're gonna have to do this is we're gonna have to take this guy down. And then that guy's gonna take a hostage, and we cannot kill him. We just have to knock him away from the dude.
What's wrong with my leg?
And we'll get him to follow us.
Hey, Batman, make sure you make this last one hurt. For me.
'Cause that's how we're gonna get him.
A friend is back.
Probably. Hi, Link.
Word on the street is he can't die.
Come on, you ignoramus. Go upstairs.
I'm not gonna let
Yes, 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 yes! He didn't die!
You got a gun, moron! Shoot him with it!
You know what it's like, Luke? You know what I was just thinking?
It
Oh,
didn't.
sorry.
It didn't give it to me.
Sorry.
It didn't do it. When an enemy climbs to the top of the ladder, detonate it. See, it doesn't always work. It says the explosive gel to send them flying back. That's exactly what I did.
You know what I was thinking? This whole thing where YouTubers are pretending as though, there was no problem with the Suicide Squad whatsoever, and it was just the live service aspect. It kind of reminds me when I was in high school, and groups of friends used to break up all the time. Like girls kind of stop talking to each other, and they never know why. I remember a few times where some of my friends would stop talking to each other, and they would, one of them would say something the other one didn't like, and then the other one would never speak to them again. And then years later, they'd be like, what was it that she said that you didn't like? What was the problem? And they were like, oh, I don't know. We just grew apart. There was no problem. We just moved to different schools. But that was a lie because you were there. You knew there was a problem. There was obviously something that the person said that she didn't like. You know what I'm saying? Honey, you know what I'm saying? There was obviously something she said because they stopped talking immediately. Mm-hmm. And there was obviously a huge problem. But then they just pretend like nothing happened at all and that there wasn't a problem at all. And that's exactly how this is going with these YouTubers that are just like, oh yeah, there really wasn't a problem with the Suicide Squad at all. And you know what's sad about that? You know what this is like? It's like when on the have you ever seen that cartoon, old cartoon with Bugs Bunny, where they say everyone who doesn't like what's being done right now, everyone's complaining, they're like, everyone who doesn't like what's being done right now, take one step forward, and everyone steps forward. And then they're like, okay, I'm going to turn around now, and I'm going to need an explanation from all of you guys why you want this, what you have a problem with. And then everyone takes a step back except for one person, when everyone had a problem with it at first. But then when they said there's going to be consequences or you're going to have to explain it or something, then everyone takes a step back, and then there's one person left, and there's Luke standing there alone when literally everyone already said they had a problem with it. Now everyone just took a step back, and he was just standing there alone.
I got this.
You know what I'm saying?
That's because I'm a leader. I take the hits. That's why. I would tell them.
Well, I know, but most people, they wouldn't. I thought about it.
If I don't like something, I tell people I don't like it. If somebody puts something on my food I don't want, to be like, I didn't ask for this. Could you please bring something else? Or
that's so scary for most people.
I can't eat that. Especially if somebody puts chicken on my food. Be like, this will kill me. So, could I have something else, please? I can't eat this.
That's a good trick.
If not, just bring me dessert and bring the check, because I can't eat this. I'm not paying for that. Because on account, I'd be paying for my own funeral.
Yeah, but you don't even send, generally, as long as it doesn't kill you, you don't send things back at the restaurant.
No, as long as it doesn't kill me. I like to use humor on everything, so, I like to make it.
But you won't, if it is important, you don't just let something go that's gonna harm you when, it's actually important to stand up for it.
Well, the only reason that
That's what I do like how you mean what you say and you say what you mean. That's one of my favorite things.
the only reason I stood up for everything about the Suicide Squad, one, we had to wait a decade for a new Rocksteady game, right? It was literally a decade. It felt like it. It might have even been 2000. Yeah, it was 2015, and then their next game was in 2024, right? But the game that they delivered was just this average live service game, and they decided that they were going to take something that people absolutely loved and have been speculating and making lore videos and, you know, diving into the canon and all this other stuff for something that they really loved. And when they brought it back, they did a terrible job on purpose to make a mockery of everything that everybody ever liked. And then if you played the game, there were instances where the game itself was making fun of past Arkham fans.
That was frustrating.
For, you know, and basically implying that we were toxic. So they were doing all this subliminal messaging and
like when
all this making fun of us.
That was very annoying when they were saying you shouldn't make fun of how Harley looks. Then when she looked at her old character model's outfit, she was like made a mean remark about it, implying that anyone who liked that kind of outfit, there's something wrong with them.
Well, not just that. There's numerous parts of the story where the banter that was not written by Sefton Hill and not written by the guy who did the narrative for Arkham Knight, it was written by the SBI people. They're constantly having the characters basically make fun of Arkham fans by taking like key storylines, like, you know, how Deadshot was, and if anybody has a problem with him being black, you're racist, and all this other stuff. They were like sprinkling all this dissension and negativity and malice throughout the game from just the character banter. The only character that was literally untouched from a lot of the, you know, Twitter like etiquette was King Shark. King Shark was the only likable character out of the group because he actually felt like a new character added to the Arkhamverse. He was like, for the most part, completely normal. Like, he was a normal guy in a squad with crazy people. The problem is they gave like, for the most part, the narrative isn't that bad until you inject all of the stuff that people literally hate about woke people, and you parade that around like, you know, haha, we're doing this to your game and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, that type of, like, animosity and, like, just downright spite is what made people hate the characters and make them unlikable. Because they were using as a radio for their own voices about how much they hated gamers.
I think, like, I was just thinking, like, if the game was a person, the person would be kind of like... It took me a long time to realize that some people will scream right in your face and be awful, and then obviously they're showing their true colors, that you can call the police or say, hey, you're being ridiculous, and
you can't really call the police on somebody screaming at you.
But I'm just saying, like, or if they're at a family gathering, everyone can tell that they're being a jerk because they're screaming.
Right.
But then there's other people that will do the slow drip, you know? They'll just make mean comments over and over a series of years to the point where they're saying hurtful things all the time, but they're not saying it all at once. They're just waiting. You never know when they're going to say something else hurtful. That's kind of what that game was like. It was like you were playing it, you're like, oh, maybe it's not so bad. And then they would say something else really mean and spiteful, and then you'd be like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. And then, of course, that's how those people were able to do it subliminally. Then they would take clips of when it wasn't so bad and be like, see, there's nothing wrong with this. But of course, they made it.
You have to subject yourself to the entire game in order to realize how bad it was.
As you play the game, getting through the whole game, that's the problem, is having to be subjected to that over and over again as you're playing it. They purposely put those, like, awful things in the game, like, at key places, so you would just have to hear them over and over again.
But, I mean, that's the thing, like, there are game developers that they see the outcry of fans, like, taking something that they loved for a decade and smearing it, and they sided with I think that was the hardest thing about all of this, is, like, I knew people at Rocksteady, And Rocksteady basically, when everybody hated the Suicide Squad and they were talking about how bad the story was and how bad the character banter, instead of being like, oh, you guys didn't like this, well, I mean, we tried something new, it didn't work, so we're going to go back to formula. That's not what they said. Like, for months they defended Sweet Baby like the gamers were the ones that were the wrong, and they basically shielded the abuser. That was the problem. There was literally someone who, like, when they say, how did the game hurt you? It's like, you had people who were writing narrative about not villains making fun of the heroes. You were making fun of your own install base.
Yeah, they were making fun of the audience.
And
so
not only that, but the villains weren't acting like the villains that we knew and loved from Arkham. We didn't get to play as our favorite villains in the Suicide Squad. We got to play with a lot of Twitter freaks that were just repeating stuff that we constantly heard every freaking day on Twitter. And, whenever we'd see their blue check marks and their weird comic profiles and all their weird furry crap, and see that, like, directed toward us in weird banter that had no place to be in the game to begin with. And we're supposed to act like, okay, this is how the villains are. No, it's not how the villains are supposed to act. They hardly ever talked about their grudges with their respective heroes. The only one who did, the only person who talked about their respective grudges with their opposite was Captain Boomerang. He was the only one who constantly made fun of the Flash the whole game. Wonder Woman had this, or not Wonder Woman, Harley Quinn had this whole simp reaction to Wonder Woman the entire game. She never really talked about Batman at all. She didn't talk about any of her past experiences. Deadshot didn't really talk about Batman. The whole thing about him was he was black. I kid you not. The entire thing about Deadshot, whenever he opened his mouth, was about, you have a problem with me being the way I am? He turned it in conversations about that. And then his conversations, instead of why he and instead of why he and Jon Stewart had beef with each other, it was just kind of like a criminal, a thug, and a cop, a Leo, going at it. And that's the type of conversations they had. And of course they had to make the Green Lantern the bad cop to fit the narrative of the people who were writing the way the story's supposed to go. So you didn't even really have a proper, like, why Green Lantern and Deadshot dislike each other. It was kind of like two rival gangs in the ghetto squaring off and being like top bulldog, which one is bigger, which one is better, blah, 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 and having a mutual respect of each other because of their skin color. That was Deadshot. The only one that was normal was King Shark. He was the only one that had probably any semblance of being a normal villain in a sense, because he eats people, and they made a joke about it. Every other character is nothing like an Arkham character, and that's why the game should have been its own standalone universe, because then no one would care. But if you take something that people care about, and then, like I said before, and you take a crap all over it, people are going to have a reaction. So this game was made as a reactionary device, and as a vehicle that Sweet Baby hoped would be a good game, so they could further their toxicity and cancer throughout the industry. That's what it was used for.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think one problem, like what you were saying, like with the villains, like in general, like just me seeing it, just in general, is like, think about like Sweet Baby Incorporated, the people who work there, like they have to beg the government for funding to do their job because they don't have a real job. Their job is to like harass people and try to get people to change their game so they feel better, and they don't have a job like selling a pen salesman, or they don't actually do a service to people. They're not delivering mail, they're not making food in a kitchen, they're not helping someone with their accounting, they're not helping their family. It's like they're not actually doing a service. They don't have a job that actually makes a profit. Their whole job is, the same kind of job that you would have as an artist or a scientist or someone that's begging money for funding. Like, they have to beg money for funding. Like, that's one of the reasons I didn't want to be a musician, was Like, because orchestras and a lot of musicians, they have to beg people for funding opera, for funding music. That's what I didn't want to do. I didn't want a job like that. But Luke was kind of, I wanted Luke to hear what I was saying, but
I'm here.
basically, like, these people don't make a profit. They're not selling pens that are making a profit or something. Like, they have to beg the government for funding.
Which we didn't know about.
They're not actually profiting. They don't help. They haven't helped the sales of any company they work with. So they're not being paid based off of sales.
Oh, I can tell you
They're
something.
not being paid based off of ad. They're in ad revenue. They're not being paid. There's nobody making money based off of their services and then paying them a portion of the profit. They're not making any profit.
Are you able to get back to your original point? Because I can.
I'll say my original point really quick. Basically what I'm saying is these criminals that they're supposed to be super criminals work for money. Like Deadshot, King Shark, they're smart. Super criminals are smart. They have to make a profit. So like them, Sweet Baby Incorporating putting their like weird teenage problems with people where they rant to people online and make no money. It basically lives in their mom's basement and yell at fans. And they don't know anything about making money or making a profit or working in the real world with a real job. They're like putting their ideas and their personalities onto these super criminals, but these super criminals would never act like that because super criminals, they have one thing that people respect, and that's they actually make money. They actually work hard. Even though they're killing people, they actually have to make a profit doing it. So that is one thing people can actually respect about criminals. They are actually working.
Well, they were out to do bad things. Like the problem is the Arkham villains were supposed to be the nastiest, grotesque, and most like dangerous versions of Batman's rogues, because essentially this Batman universe was made for adults. Oops. It wasn't supposed to be like, so everything is
right.
a mockery of everything.
Yeah, so it's like these people having these petty things like, oh, nobody cares about me because I'm this category. These criminals would never say that. They would just be like, I'm going to kill this fool. They looked at me wrong. I'm going to kill them. Like, these people would be hardened criminals. They wouldn't be worried about their feelings being hurt. But Sweet Baby Incorporated, all they care about is their feelings being hurt.
It basically comes out like a bunch of like teenagers whining. Like I was waiting at one point for Deadshot to invite Harley Quinn to prom or Joker or something. It was just really stupid. But the thing is, what they like to do, like that SBI company, how they're able to get traction in the industry, is they'll work very little, like have very little credits on something like God of War, or like Baldur's Gate, or like what else did they brag about? Tomb Raider or whatever. They'll have like one thing that they do, like they'll change one character and make them diverse or something like that out of everything. And then when that game is successful, they use that success to prop up everything that they do, so they can be like, we're not an evil company, we don't do anything bad, because look, we were successful with God of War, and we were successful to this. And then you have to go and do your own detective work to see that their credits in the games that actually were successful was very minimal. But the games that failed utterly, they were super involved with. Like Suicide Squad was supposed to be their easy entry into more jobs so they could get away from government funding, because they did the narrative of like all the character banter. They did all the bios, which people used to love reading the bios. Mm-hmm. They did all the audio tapes, like the actual audio tapes. Like, when Hugo Strange sat down with people and talked and you collected them and you listened to them. They did the narrative for all of those, which suck. Every single one of the audio tapes sucks. They did the character banter that's throughout the game, where the characters are running around and you're standing aimlessly and they're talking about random crap. That was Sweet Baby. That was not the regular banter person. There was hardly any banter with the enemies whatsoever. Like, it was just military orders the whole time. The focus was on making the squad likable, but the squad wasn't likable at all. They didn't talk about anything interesting.
Well, I was thinking about, I didn't watch all the Suicide Squad movies. I watched the first movie with Will Smith. And that movie, even though a lot of people hated it, I did like it. Like, I thought, there was a lot, at least the Suicide Squad was likable in it. Like, you know, Will Smith, Harley Quinn, and I don't remember if Captain Boomerang was in that, but like a lot of the characters in that were likable, and I don't know, the reason why was number one, like they acted a little bit like King Shark did in that game, where they were humble and they admitted that they did bad things and that they weren't the best people, and also they acted scared of Amanda Waller. You kind of felt for them because they didn't seem like the real criminals. Amanda Waller seemed like she was scary. Like,
Are we talking about the animated movie?
oh,
or
I'm talking about the one with Will Smith. But even in the
Oh.
animated movie, that was kind of terrifying.
The animated movie that was rated R, they acted like the Arkham video game characters. The Suicide Squad characters that are in the world invasion thing, like Captain Boomerang and Deadshot and Harley and King Shark, all those characters that were in that movie don't act like the characters that are in the
Yeah.
Suicide Squad. So if they're trying to make some type of like connection to these characters through
Yeah.
continuity, they all feel like strangers.
I think it would have been more relatable. I would have liked the characters more if I would have saw the U.S. government as the real enemy, because they're monsters putting these bombs in their head. I mean, the government is the monsters.
Amanda
Like,
Waller is the villain.
yeah, exactly. Like, that's crazy. Like, even these super criminals wouldn't think of putting a bomb in somebody's head. It just shows that the government is more insane than the criminals, and that's what I liked about like the movie with Will Smith, but also the movie with the portions I saw of that animated series. I wish they would have gone in that direction for that would have made them more likable, because
Yeah. The thing is with Amanda Waller that every comic book fan knows is she's the villain in her story. Like, she does.
Yeah, she's cool, but she's the villain.
She's cool, but she crosses a line to do what she feels is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who she kills in order for that to happen. In the Suicide Squad movie that's non-canon, like the animated movie that Rocksteady repeatedly says, non-canon because they killed off characters that would later appear in other things, and there's no real mention of them in the Arkham games. There's no mention of the Suicide Squad incident ever in any of the Arkham games that Rocksteady did, which is why they say it's not canon.
Yeah.
That's their core reasoning, is this isn't canon because of that. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. But the characterization that the person who was not involved with the Arkham games at all, like the guy who like really knew Ben Affleck and stuff like that, and Zack Snyder, and even to this day says that Ben Affleck's Batman script was peak Batman and fans missed out. He was the director behind the Suicide Squad Assault on Arkham movie.
Oh, yeah.
And he played the Arkham games, but he was not involved with the characterization of those characters in the Arkham games. So based on his perception of those characters when he was playing Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, he wrote that movie, and he did a better job as someone who was an outsider and an executive at DC. He did a better job at portraying the Suicide Squad as villains, as dangerous misfits in that less than 2-hour movie than Sefton Hill and the Sweet Baby team did in a 15-hour game.
Are you talking about the first movie with Will Smith, or the first
No,
one?
the assault
the
on
other one.
the R-rated Assault
Oh,
on
yeah.
Arkham movie,
Yeah.
where people's heads literally they show
Oh,
them
wow.
blow up.
Oh
It's
my
gory.
gosh.
It's
Yeah.
gory. It's gory.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is gory.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think what was interesting about the whole Suicide Squad concept is, like, you have people that kill people for a living, and then there's somebody scarier than that, you know, and it's the government. I mean, I even remember that one clip of, I don't know what it's from, I think it's from the animated Suicide Squad, where somebody's like, you know, like, they're in this room and there's people watching them or something, and it's like, like, they're like, oh my gosh, who are you? Like, they're terrified, and they're like super criminals, and Amanda Waller's like, I'm the government, and it's like terrifying. It's like horrifying. Like, they like drag them in there, and they're like scared out of their mind.
Put bombs in their head. Yeah, they do.
And
they do
it's
villainous
like, oh
things.
my gosh, like, that was very horrifying. The way that she said it was terrifying. Like, I was scared.
I think the problem I had with that Suicide Squad game too is it didn't feel like Amanda Waller was really the villain. Like, she couldn't be the villain because of her appearance. Like, you know, you got to check off that diversity box, so of course you can't have a person of color be the villain.
But in the animated version, she has no problem.
She's always been the villain.
Yeah, she has no problem doing it. And the lady who voices Amanda Waller
TC Pounder
is amazing. Like, she's so scary.
Are you talking about the original Waller?
Yeah, CC Pounder.
CC Pounder was the original. Yeah. Yep.
And I saw her in like Warehouse 13. I really like her as an actress. And she has, I think that's cool when you have no problem owning that you're playing the villain, but you're still cool.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, we got a super chat.
Thank you guys for the super chat. I'm gonna have to take a quick break and get the YouTube short up because we're in really, really bad shape.
What's this, Chad? Thank you so much, Chad.
Whoa. I don't know what to say. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you, Chad. I appreciate the super chat, buddy.
I don't know what it was.
And it comes out to $25 in USD.
Thank you, Chad. You're breathtaking. Thank you so much for the help.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, we're gonna have to jump off real quick, make a YouTube short, and get it up because our hourly views are bad. So I'm gonna be right back, and we'll continue discussing things if you guys have questions for us and things like that. This is a Batman stream, so feel free to ask whatever Batman questions you want, and be back in like probably less than 10 minutes or so. Okay? Gotta get that YouTube short up because we're in trouble. All right, people, we're back. The emergency short is up. If you could click that, that would be a huge help for us. That way we could keep things stable going into the next hour. The channel is barely at 1,000 views. I think we're at like 1060. So if everybody in the chat could click on that cat short. Member shorts really do help, like, basically quarterize the channel. And I had to jump off the stream in order to make that real quick. So, of course, I'll cut out this section and the opening later, but I had no choice. So, Amber's actually watching CC Pounder Justice League clips, and just like Amanda Waller was such a cool character. Come here.
It's okay.
Nope.
You don't have to move.
I'm moving.
Yeah, she actually knew everything about everyone. It's actually pretty cool, but scary. She should be my favorite. Next time people say, "What's your favorite villain in DC?" It's like Amanda Waller. She's awesome. She's scary.
She's supposed to be scary though.
I was just watching a clip of one of the Justice League movies. I don't know what it was, but she said, like, you know, if you even move wrong or something, I'm gonna blow you up.
Yep.
And Harley looked terrified. She looked scared. So, I mean, which is a huge difference than what you got in that game where... That's what the thing was. Like, they didn't act like they were people that were afraid.
There is actually a way to blow yourself up, though. When I was free roaming in the Suicide Squad game, for fun, I kept disobeying Amanda Waller's orders. It took a while, though, but eventually she does pull the trigger and blow your head off, which is where, yeah, where the game gets its M rating. So I was just like not on mission, and I left the mission area, and I was just like goofing off. I was just seeing how far away I could get. And she says over the radio, she's like, Harley Quinn has gone AWOL, and then like literally she hits the thing, and then Harley is interrupted saying the F word and her head blows up. So I mean, you could actually kill the Suicide Squad in the game if you wanted to. It's just they made it such like a lengthy thing. Like, you would think, okay, as soon as you leave the area, Amanda Waller's gonna kill you, but they didn't do that. It's like,
yeah,
they keep warning the player over and over again, like, yeah, if you keep doing this, you're gonna be in trouble.
It was like not a huge deal. Like, oh, you're gonna get detention. It's like, oh, I'm so scared.
It was after like the 6th warning, like in a time span of like, I think 4 minutes or something like that, and then she finally blew up my head. I was like, okay.
I don't know, like,
Will you ever get my review of the Suicide Squad? I deconstructed that game during my entire Let's Play of it. I'm never doing a dedicated review to it. I might make a video making fun of the ending because it just shows that, you know, the story was stupid. But at the same time, what I don't like about the ending is it reinforces what a lot of the defenders said at the beginning. Because now it's like they're thinking, oh yeah, all that stuff about how the Justice League was going to come back to life and all that was always planned, and Kevin has more voiceover lines. It's like, Kevin has more voiceover lines? If that's true, then why was Harley Quinn the one who was doing the dialogue? That means that they didn't have additional stuff for Kevin. You know, that was all a lie to try to sugarcoat everything. And the fact that Harley Quinn, you know, actually shows up and voices the graphic novel ending or motion comic ending just reinforces.
It shows that that was never planned for the ending to begin with. If it was, Kevin Conroy would have been voicing that.
Yep, and
They
the
made
Superman
that up.
actor and all this other stuff. So,
Obviously.
but what I don't like about the ending too is it you know, makes the Defenders look like they were right all along, but at the same time, it's such a messy ending.
It's like rewriting history.
Yeah, in a sense. Like, this was always our plan, and it's all the haters' fault.
It's obviously not.
That our
It
game
wasn't their
failed.
plan, because if Kevin Conroy was still alive, they would have had him voice that, and then, you know, they're putting a band-aid on the ending. But the fact that they had to put a band-aid on the ending, but now they're stuck with the idea, the reality that now they can't really make it look believable because Kevin Conroy's not here. So that proves that at the time the game was made and it was finished, that ending was not part of it. And the fact that they just released it now and that wasn't the end screen on the game proves that that was never going to be the ending. They just made that up out of the, you know, they just pulled that out of somewhere.
Well,
like,
I
randomly.
think the reason why they ran out of a budget is because they actually had a plan for the Suicide Squad, how they wanted to go with it. And then based on the outcry of how bad the game did, they changed certain aspects, like being able to rescue the Suicide Squad and stuff. And that's why when they did their season passes, they were like, oh, we planned this all out. It's like, if they planned out the season passes the way that they said they did in advance with rescuing the Justice League, then we would have gotten to rescue the Justice League as we went. But that's not what happened. It's like every time that you did a season, it wasn't until the Mr. Freeze thing happened that you actually were able to save one of the Justice League members. They had 2 things of DLC prior to that where you don't save any Justice Leaguers. And there's no mention of the Justice Leaguers. You just rescue other villains. Like the Joker, for instance.
Yeah, they never planned to rescue the Justice League. It's like if somebody it's like if somebody says they were planning on coming to your birthday, but they got a flat tire on the road. And then you're just like, oh, okay, well, I believe you, sure. And then you, like, look at their car and they're, you know, you talk to the guy that they always go to for the flat tire and, you know, like there's no new tire, there's no tire repair. It's obvious that they didn't get a flat tire. They obviously never planned on going to your birthday. So Lucas left me. So I tried to say something and he didn't hear what I said, so I guess I'm not gonna say it.
I'm sorry, honey. I get distracted by the chat. I have ADD. There's so many things happening.
But I won't. Do you want me to say it again?
I liked what you said.
I said it's like if somebody says they're trying to come to your birthday and they got a flat tire, but then you go to their house and you realize that there is no sign or evidence that they had that flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously didn't go get it repaired. There's no sign of repair. The tire isn't new. You even talked to the guy they usually go to get tire repair from. You ended up going to him to casually, you know, maybe you go to the same place to get your car repaired, and they mentioned that the person was never there during the time they said they went there. So you know they just made it up. They obviously didn't plan to go to your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, all the signs are there that they are making this up. That they're saying that they always planned for this, but they obviously did not.
Yep.
And the death of Kevin Conroy is a smoking gun that proves that they are lying.
Like, where's all this additional dialogue?
I'm telling you, if he was alive, they could continue their farce or whatever they're doing, their fake version of history, because they could have had all of the people do the lines. But there's only one problem. The lead actor is gone. He's passed away.
Yeah, one of the things
so
they
that
said...
means they couldn't make the lie up. They couldn't make the lie complete.
One of the things they said that we, as fans, spoiled because of how bad their game was, is they said there's all this additional dialogue of Superman and Batman, and once you rescue them, and it's like, okay, once you rescue them, you want to know what happens?
Oh,
Can I explain this?
Yeah.
When you rescue them, there are people talking to them, but the Justice League is in a coma. So when you rescue the Flash doesn't really say anything. He's inside of a pod. Now, if these characters really had quote-unquote more dialogue and things to discuss, then why aren't the characters speaking with the League? They're in a coma, and they're getting better, but they're not really better because there was never any plan to bring them back that way.
Yeah, so John Doe says exactly, Luke, where was the additional dialogue for Kevin Conroy, LOL? Yeah, exactly, it's kind of like...
Time for practice.
It's kind of like, it reminds me of my friend. Every time I would talk to my friend at school, she kept, my friend lived kind of in the very bad part of town, in a poor area of town. And every time someone would try to, make fun of her about it, be like, oh, yeah, your family's poor. And she'd be like, no, they're not. They're really rich. My family has my friend used to say this in school all the time. She was like, my family has an elevator in their house. That's what she would say to people that would mock her and say that, her family didn't have a lot of money. She said that they had an elevator. That's how many stories her house had. There was an elevator. So I was like, really excited when my friend finally invited me to her house. And I cannot help but notice when I got to her house there was no elevator.
Yeah. And
it's like, this is exactly how this feels. It's like they were every time they were called out, you said that there would be this, and you said, you planned for, Batman to die a horrible death, and this was horrible. Then they were like, no, I didn't. There's additional dialogue for him. I feel like they were going to maybe they were going to try to get Kevin to record that later or something and redo the ending. But, literally him passing away meant he couldn't record that additional dialogue and the fact is, even if he didn't pass away, and even if they did record that additional dialogue later and rewrite the end of the game, the truth is, they did lie at the beginning and say that they had always planned for that, which is a complete lie. Their original story was always to just have them die.
Well, woke people always lie, though. When they do their game projects, they never want to say that they changed something because of backlash, because they don't want to admit that they did any wrong to begin with. So they have no accountability. So what they did is that it's like, oh, it's all these people, complaining and stuff like that. We had a plan all along, see? But it's like a smart person then asks questions. It's like, okay, if you had a plan, where's additional dialogue for Kevin? Even though we can't play those levels, if you really do have additional dialogue from Batman, release it.
I know. People should start
add it as a
them.
bonus.
People should keep asking them until they have to admit that they lied.
Exactly.
I think they should admit that they lied.
But, I mean, right now, even though they released that ending that everybody's making fun of, that's not going to help Rocksteady save face, really, because, like I said, the fan base is split right down the middle right now. There are more people that are excited over the prospect of a new company handling the next Arkham game than Rocksteady, because the trust that the fans had, the fandom had, for the people who orchestrated that universe is gone.
It's so...
Because we don't know what they're going to do with the story next, because whatever happened with they're basically... It feels like the person who wrote the game was trying to burn the Arkham franchise to the ground. They just were very fed up with everything, and they went in like a hatchet job, basically.
Yeah, it's like when Duke died in Transformers, but then
New G.I. Joe.
No,
G.I.
Joe, sorry.
Fake fan.
G.I. Joe, and then at the end of it, they realized they made a horrible mistake because everyone loved Duke.
Oh no, that's not what happened.
And then they were like, "Oh, never mind, he's okay."
That's not what happened.
This is exactly the same.
The parent television group found out that G.I. Joe was going to be getting a movie, and they did some digging with a Hasbro executive in the 80s, and they found out that Duke was going to get stabbed through the chest and die.
Oh my god!
So the parent group put pressure on Hasbro to not kill Duke, and they delayed the movie so much that Hasbro had to release it on video. So before they released the movie on video, what they did is they added the brief dialogue where they brought back Doc and Scarlet, the actors, to act like Duke came out of a coma, but you hear them talking off screen. You never see their mouths move.
Oh wow!
In fact, when Scarlet says he's gone, to clarify to the audience that Duke's dead, then Doc, the doctor, like off screen, or not off screen, from behind his back when he's, you know, probably closing Duke's eyes, he says, he's gone into a coma, everyone. And then at the end of the movie, over the radio, they're like, this is Doc, everybody, and I just want to tell you that Duke came out of his coma. He's going to be okay. And everybody goes, yo, Joe. But that wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
The parent group, I forget their name, but they were very, like, very well-known, like, censorship group in the 80s and 90s. They were responsible for that because they didn't want to traumatize any kids anymore the way that Optimus Prime's death. Because here you had these characters that these kids related to as, like, father figures and moral figures and, like, good examples of men, and they're being murdered in front of them because it's a war show, and it was traumatizing, like, the young kids. Like, I was traumatized by Optimus' death because you had the television show was one way and never dealt with that subject to begin with. If the TV show, like in Japan, would deal with death, you know, in a way that works, that kids could understand, then the shocking thing that they did at the beginning of the Transformers movie where they killed off the entire first season characters in, like, 3 minutes, in, like, very extreme ways for, if you look at the movie, compared to the TV show, the way that Prowl and, like, all your favorite characters die at the beginning of the movie, like, with the smoke coming out of their mouths and their eyes exploding and all this, you know, really violent stuff that was never allowed to be in the TV show. And the people who are writing the show don't see these as characters. They see these as toys to sell. Right. So they just go through and completely butcher your favorite characters in minutes. And kids watching this were crying in the theater. It wasn't just when Optimus died. When Prowl was killed, there were kids bawling because Prowl and Ironhide and Ratchet and all these characters are being, like, you know, in front of them.
Like, that's basically what they were doing in the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game.
Yeah, but these were adults. Adults did have, like, love for these characters, but I didn't hear anybody crying.
Yeah, but
I heard people, like,
it was
having a very, like, hurt reaction to it because they cared for these characters in this world.
Yeah, it was worse with the Transformers because that was for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why they changed G.I. Joe.
It just shows, like, but that ending with Duke, where they're off screen saying it. If they had intended for Duke to be alive, they would have animated that whole thing to make it very clear.
They would have showed the hospital bed,
They would have made it very clear he was alive.
Yep.
But obviously, that was not the original, and that's the same with this. If they had really already had Kevin record everything and they had decided for him to be alive, like, they would have animated him back alive. And they would have made a character model of Kevin Conroy and he would have been speaking and saying he's alive, showing clearly he's alive. Obviously, in the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, at the point where Kevin Conroy passed away, they had no intention of the Suicide Squad or the Justice League being alive.
No, they didn't.
It's very clear because of such a botched ending.
The reason why people were upset too, not just that nobody knew it would be Kevin's last performance, but, like, they had been teasing for years, we really want to do a Justice League thing. We really want to do an Arkham version of the Justice League, meaning we want to do an adult, you know, hardcore, you know, very cool video game version of the Justice League. So then they took that anticipation that fans had for the Justice League, and they basically gave us an Injustice thing, which nobody wanted.
Yeah.
Like, no one wanted like, to see the Arkham version of the Justice League that people were promised for years to turn into the product that they released. And that also caused a massive outcry, like, for everyone that was interested in an Arkham Justice League, because nobody wanted that.
Yeah.
The most important thing you can do when you're making a game is it's good to be creative, but at the same time, it's also good to be respectful to your core customers and also try to release a product that you know that they're going to love. Making a product that is very, like, malice and full of, like, dissenting talking points and making fun of your core customers and then attacking them on social media when they're complaining about not liking your game, and, you know, trying to establish that you're, you know, going to side with the people that literally went there, that were hired because they hated the Arkham thing, which Sweet Baby People already said. They hated how toxic and male gaze and very, like, sexist and things that the Arkham games were. So they were going to come in and fix it and do what they need to make it, like, better for, like, you know, the modern audiences.
Yeah.
And they did succeed in making the game better for, like, 2 people. But for the core audience, they alienated us. All the people that had been making YouTube videos and, like, writing fan fiction and comic books and all this other stuff, they did a disservice to their core. You never, ever do anything as a business person to ruin your reputation with your core audience, because your core audience is literally going to go through fire to support you because they love you. But if you spurn that love, you're host, because they will never support you again. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was just thinking, even Disney Star Wars, with how bad they botched the ending to that, at least when they brought in the original trilogy actors, besides Luke, they really screwed over Luke.
Yeah, of course.
But with Leia and Han, they didn't, like, completely disrespect them. Like,
No, they didn't, actually.
so that wasn't too bad. Like, they were much worse in this game than they were even with Disney Star Wars was. And that's sad. Like, this Disney Star Wars actually did better with some of their characters than this game.
But they still didn't handle them that well, though.
No.
Like, there was a margin of respect for the original trilogy characters that Star Wars did. There was no respect at all for what they did with Suicide Squad, and people called them out on it. And there's actually a very PR way they could have answered that, but the fact that Rocksteady employees acted like Sweet Baby employees, I think that's why a lot of fans felt betrayed.
Yeah.
Like, because when they actually had real questions about why they did this and why they decided to ruin the franchise,
Why didn't they just
they deflected all the questions to, like, oh, you're an incel, you're a bigot, and you know, they completely, you know, thought
they
that
didn't do it very professionally.
no, they didn't do it professionally, and they also thought that they could get away with treating their customers like that, and that we'd eat whatever slop they gave us.
Yeah, you would think that they would have said, like, if it was me and, like, Sweet Baby changed some stuff about the game, and I was working at Rocksteady, and my fans were like, why did you change this like this? I probably would have said, like, because I was just thinking, like, because I used to work as a receptionist at insurance, and the insurance agents would sometimes make decisions for people that, like, you know, were making people very angry. Like, they would say, you're not insured, you know, your $300,000 car, it's not going to get a minute of insurance on it, you don't get anything. And people would come and ask questions, like, call, and I had to, like, take all those calls. People were pretty upset. I was just thinking about this. Like, usually I would either give it to a different department, or they would ask, like, they would be screaming at me and be like, why was this decision made? And a lot of times I would have to say something like, well, it's not my department, let me transfer you to someone, you know, I'm not sure if this is, you know, I'm not in that decision, that's not my decision, let me see if I can find someone who can help you with this. I feel like that would have been a lot better for them to say, like, why did you ruin my character? You know, somebody says this on Twitter, you know, and you work for Rocksteady, and you didn't make the decision to ruin it. So why would you act so like, childish and yell at them in response. As a professional on Twitter, you probably could have said, that wasn't my department, that wasn't my personal decision to make Batman like this. Let me see if I can find someone who can help you answer that question.
There was no,
I think
there
that
was
would
no
have been more
professionalism.
professional.
Because
that would have been better to say.
the questions in the beginning were not bad questions. They were more like, why did you do this? What happened was when they kept, like, basically gaslighting the fan base, which Rocksteady did do. Rocksteady employees gaslighted us. They made fun of us. They sided with Sweet Baby. They did all this other stuff. Like, they completely threw their fan base of, like, 15 years under the bus. Like we were nothing. And they were making fun of us, and they were calling us this and phobes and all this other stuff. You know, making race issues that didn't exist and all kinds of nonsense. And they were completely deflecting any type of criticism that was warranted. And acting like, there's nothing wrong with our game, there's a problem with you because you don't like the fact that we changed Deadshot. They completely, you know, did not do any criticism whatsoever. And then when they did say, oh, we're totally fine with criticism, but you have to say it the right way, or it's blah, 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 blah. You know, they completely changed their perspective. So then what happened is the fan base did eventually become nasty, but the lie is that the fan base was rude and sending death threats and doing all this other stuff to Rocksteady, like, during the first month of release.
Yeah,
they gaslighted the fans, and then they continued to douse us with gasoline, and the reaction that happened was the fans got angry.
Yeah, why is it
they caused the animosity?
Why would it be the fans' responsibility to act professional when they're not getting paid? It's not their game. It's not the fans aren't getting paid for the game. That's Rocksteady. It's Rocksteady's responsibility to act professional. Like, fans aren't getting paid to act professional. Rocksteady is supposed to be getting paid to act professional. It's their game.
Yep.
The customers can act however they want. That's how customers are just supposed to say their honest opinion, and then you're supposed to, if you made the game, it's your product, you're supposed to be the one who's professional and responding.
Yeah. In the beginning, fans were doing, like, memes to make fun of it because it was, you know, scorn was warranted. But then, as more time went on, and they completely sided with, essentially, the people responsible for, you know, doing all the other stuff and lying and throwing fans under the bus, then fans started to get really nasty with Rocksteady. And then they had to do damage control where they were posting things like saying, like, you know, wasn't our intent to do this, and they saw the sales numbers. But before, you know, they were fine basically making fun of everybody. And you have to remember that the core people responsible for Rocksteady had already left the company. So it's just the sloppy leftovers that were still there. But even then, you would think that they would have had some type of decorum to try to de-escalate things, but all they did was they continued to fuel, you know, the people that were unhappy. And they just made it worse.
Like, that's what even when I worked at Pizza Hut, they trained me to de-escalate customers, even in a small place like that. They were like, if some customer was getting irate, you're supposed to help calm them down and be like, okay, how can I help? What can I do that would make you feel better? You know, or how can I help? Would a free pizza be better? Like, you're supposed to help de-escalate. Like, you're supposed to say, like, they even taught me when I worked at Pizza Hut that you're supposed to say, I apologize, because you're not supposed to say, I'm sorry. You're supposed to say, I'm apologize, because apologize is a professional way to say I'm sorry.
Well, you don't have to, in a professional setting, you don't have to do that. Like, in the food industry, you do,
in the food industry, but
in the game industry, how you would handle this would be like, we understand that this game, you know, isn't what people wanted. And, you know, we feel like we represented the characters the way that we wanted to, but we heard what you guys were saying, and we understand that this was the wrong direction, and just know that our next project, we're going to go back to formula. You just keep it very simple and sweet, and then all the dissenting voices would actually probably quiet down, because people would be like, okay, they realized that they screwed up. It wasn't until the game was canceled that they said, okay, so maybe we didn't make the best game, and you know what, they didn't say we're gonna do better. They said, we're working on a new Arkham game. They never said that
They never said we heard.
Nope.
Yeah, that would have been great if they actually said we heard what you were saying, and we heard like if they acknowledge like the fact that they instead of saying we acknowledge that there were some people that that there were some issues with the game, that the core audience wasn't happy with it or something. I don't know how to say the response, but I'm just saying what you just said, where they said your voices have been heard. Like, even to say that we heard what you're saying, like, that would have been great. But the fact that they, instead of saying that, they were like, well, your voice doesn't count because you're a toxic fan. But it does, like, count. Like, what do you count as being toxic? Like, having an opinion is toxic?
Well, Henry Cavill said it best. He says, there's no such thing as a toxic fan. He says, studios can make fans toxic. From their response, he says, fans have passion, and fans love these characters, and fans want to see these characters succeed, so they're more invested in it than a normal person. But when the studio goes around and tries to, throw their big people under the bus and things like that, fans do get angry. But he says it's wrong to... I don't believe that there are toxic fans. I believe there are fans that are just as passionate about it as I am, and I wasn't able to meet their, what they thought about it.
Yeah, I remember Henry Cavill saying about passionate fans. I do remember him saying that.
When you call somebody toxic, you're trying to deflect, and you're trying to, especially in the game industry, you're trying to move away from any type of accountability that happened with your game. Because if you can use these buzzwords and, make yourself look like a victim, then you can rally a certain group to you that's going to defend you no matter what. But at the same time, you're using this as a shield to protect yourself from the bad game that you made, because you don't want people to think about the bad game that you made.
Yeah, I think like a lot of what happened with the Suicide Squad, like where they tried to accuse people of not liking certain people groups just because they said, I don't like how this game was written, and then they're like, well, there happens to be a shark in this game, and there happens to be African Americans in this game, so you must hate sharks and African Americans. It's like, no, I don't like the writing of the story in the game. It's like, so they just start accusing people of things that they don't, on no basis whatsoever, when in reality...
But that's their tactic.
That has nothing... It kind of reminds me of the 2016 Ghostbusters, like, where they wrote a very bad script, they wrote a very bad script, 2016 Ghostbusters, and then when they said, like, this script is bad, they were like, well, you just don't like women.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, this is the exact same thing that they're doing here. It's like, because there happens to be certain people in the game, now you're saying the script is bad, but you're just saying, well, you just don't like these people in the game. It's like, no, I didn't say that. Actually,
right,
I'm fine with those people. I thought your script was bad. Didn't you not hear what I just said?
You have to understand that woke people do not have accountability. Like, they only have, like, a victim complex. So, they say, when they say things like, we will always accept criticism of our game if it's said the right way, there is no right way to say criticism. There is no right way,
because they'll always accuse you of being... especially if you make a great point explaining how their game messed up, and there was problems with it, then they'll really be mean to you, because they want to try to, like, stomp you into the ground so that they can prove you're evil, so then they don't have to accept that criticism.
Exactly. So, like, yeah, that's what they do. That's why I said, like, these people are cancer, because no matter what you do, they have it set in their ways that anything that you say about their game, they're going to... forward back to, okay, this is about a character's skin color, this is about a woman being in the game. So they basically have a list of arguments to try to attack you with that have nothing to do with your criticism.
Right. It has nothing to do with what you said. They completely ignored what you were saying. Like, I didn't like the story of how Batman was killed. Oh, you don't like African Americans or women. It's like, no, I didn't like how Batman was killed. Like, are you not hearing what I am saying here?
Right. They're
just
gaslighting.
Completely ignoring you.
They're gaslighting. That's what they do. But, like, what most of the game industry understands, especially Japan, is you are nothing without your fans. If you do something to upset your fans too often, you're not going to have fans anymore. A lot of like woke people in comic books and video games, they believe that they can make whatever slop they want, and that we are going to be like good little puppies and continue to just like be very happy with what our masters gave us, and we're just going to eat that slop and not say anything. But what a lot of these people who are not gamers, like I would argue that most of the people at Sweet Baby and the people who came into Rocksteady, you know, they came from Hollywood and television and things like that, so they're not gamers. They came from other entertainment fields or other computer fields. They weren't gamers because they don't have the heart of a gamer and they don't have the love of games. And the fact that they were so quickly to go to Twitter and, you know, call gamers chuds and all this other stuff, all these buzzwords and stuff like that, it proved to me that, okay, the people that were working on this quote-unquote game, they're not gamers because gamers have a passion for things. Gamers have expectations and hopes and speculations, and they like to, you know, fantasize about how this game should have been or what they would have liked to see, and it would be really cool if this happened. They like to create dialogues based on things that they really like, and they get very disappointed when certain things aren't met. But for the most part, especially in Japan and Asia, like those companies try to meet gamers halfway. Do they do everything that their fans want? No. But they at least try to find a way of compromising.
Yeah, like, it reminds me of, like, how Sakurai, like, when all the criticism he had, like, why didn't you put this character in Smash Brothers? And he was, like, criticized and stuff. And he would troll, like, people a little bit, like, putting Duck Hunt Dog in there was, like, a complete troll.
I mean, but that's what gamers do, though.
Because he was almost, like, showing, okay, I'm going to put the characters I want. But then he also did listen to what they said and put in some characters that people asked for. And I think that, like, if they would have been like that, I think they should have done that. Like, you know, like, if they felt like the community was being a little harsh on them, they could have trolled them a little and been like, oh, we're going to put this character in you don't like. But I think they should have also listened to them and done some things they did want.
Yeah. Japan understands. This is a problem with why I said the game industry should only have gamers in there, is because when you have people come from other fields and other degrees, like liberal arts degrees and writing degrees, and they come from comic books and they come from computer engineers and like places like Twitter and things like that, they come from online jobs, and they've never played a video game in their life, and they don't have a favorite game. They just, if you question them and they say their favorite game is so-and-so, they're just quoting a popular game.
Yeah.
That's how you always know they're fake.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, when they go and they make these games, they're trying to interject their own personalities and their beliefs and their ideology into those games. Whereas before, the people who made games before not only had a passion, but they also had an understanding of the world that they already created, and they wanted to expand that. They didn't want to deconstruct it and tear it down. What the Suicide Squad game was, it was a complete, like, destruction of the Arkham universe. Yeah. It was like, we built this thing 15 years ago, and now we've prepped TNT all around it, and we're burning this thing to a ground, and no one will ever be able to resurrect this. Like, we're done with Arkham, we're sick of our fans, we're blah, blah, blah. That's the message that game sent, and that's the type of, like, stereo or radio effect that the characters had throughout the game, is they were constantly, like, doing little jabs at the Arkham thing. Harley Quinn's outfit, Catwoman's outfit, Gooners, and all this other stuff. They were saying all kinds of...
The whole game was like, screw you.
Basically, yeah, the whole game was a middle figure to the fans. And the people that liked the game, for the most part, were not fans of the Arkham universe, and they were not fans of video games. They were part of that phantom modern audience, like, 1, 10, maybe 50 people or whatever, and they were happy with the diversity and all this other stuff, but they couldn't give a rat's butt about the game itself. They were just happy about the game being, like, basically trying to champion, quote, right causes.
But what I find odd is, in most of the Arkham games, there was already tons of diversity in there. Mm-hmm. There was tons of different characters of different races and ethnicities already. There were female and male characters already. There was tons of different people from different walks of life in the story of Arkham already.
In the world itself, too. The thugs were Mexican, black, white, Asian.
So it's like them pretending that they were adding diversity into Arkham is absolutely crazy. Like, it's laughable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, they're thinking they're breaking the glass ceiling when like the first game had a good ratio, like Arkham Asylum. If you go back and you look at the prisoner ratio, like most of them are white, black, and Asian. The only problem is most of the guys in the prison are all bald, because my biggest problem with Arkham Asylum back in the day is they basically clone stamped all the enemies that you fought.
I mean, they did the best they could because it was an older game and they were doing the best they could with character models, but they still actually did make them look different.
Right, but when Arkham City came out, they took the criticism of like people saying, you know, all the enemies look the same. Now Arkham City, they were like, okay, there's going to be enemy fractions now. So you're going to have Joker guys are going to wear Joker masks. Two-Face guys are going to have, like, their prison uniform, like, white and black. And they're going to wear these masks that are split like Two-Face. Penguins guys are going to wear, like, you know, ice jackets with, like, a penguin button from the 1960s Adam West show. And they're going to have their masks. They're going to paint, like, little white lines under their eyes and little yellow things on their mouths to look like a penguin beak. We're going to give distinction between the enemies. Riddler's guys are going to wear green and have a little green outline around them. You know, there were factions of enemies. It did not have like this, you know, same feeling as Arkham Asylum where everybody literally looked the same. You know, they went out of their way to take the criticism from Arkham Asylum, and they made it so that every enemy that you encountered, even though was probably a clone, it felt like it was a unique enemy type. Because, you know, you knew when you were fighting a Two-Face guy. You knew when you were fighting a Joker guy or a Riddler henchman or whatever. You know, it added to, just that little change added to the story, and it created an atmosphere of Gotham where you knew that there were bad guys that joined up and worked together. You know, so it made sense in not only the narrative but also in the gameplay. And it actually, just that little change just blew up the world more.
That's what I don't get about all this stuff with, like, Sweet Baby Incorporated, is they're like, oh, we're adding diversity into gaming. It's like, but diversity has always been in gaming, like, probably even from the beginning, mostly. Like, even if you see some really old RPGs, there's, like, different types of people in those. Like, even that are made in Japan or whatever, even in the 80s or something. Like, they're just so, ignorant that people have already been aware of, like, adding people of different ethnicities.
The problem with this cult is they believe in their heart of hearts that, like, they need to break the glass ceiling and push this stuff when all this stuff was done 30 years ago. It's the problem I have with Hollywood, too. They're ignoring the people that forged the path for them, and they're jealous that there's no path to trail anymore because the trail has already been, you know, there's signs and there's a road that's already been established. And they're mad at the people that came before them, so they want to completely ignore that, and they want to fool the stupid people, the gullible people, into cheering for them for doing this kind of stuff, when this stuff has already been, you know, handled. It's already been taken care of beforehand, you know?
Yeah, it's just that
they want to pat themselves on the back for something that already exists.
But really, they're the ones that, like, they're pretending that other people are the ones that are, like, prejudiced, but they're the ones that are, because they're the ones that are using different people groups as token, like, stereotypes, yeah. And they're the ones that are, like, making that character all about just their ethnicity, instead of making them an actual person, like what they do after work, what they like to eat, what they like to read, instead of making them a human being, and it's not just based on what they look like on the outside. Instead of actually concentrating on who that person is on the inside, who they actually are as a person, they focus the whole thing on what they look like. It's just so wrong.
Or who they sleep with.
Yeah, and it's just weird. It's like, why are you focusing on this? Like, what your category is. It's just odd. That's the whole problem, is they don't realize they're the ones that are actually setting people decades back. They're pretending they're progressing, but they're actually regressing the way they're doing it.
And they're making people really angry too, because like before, when people would play an Arkham game, they weren't being like lectured by like certain people groups about like how they should live their life. Like, you can go through and you can play any older Arkham game, and there might be one character that is, you know, not straight. Like, and they don't make a big deal about it. It's a very natural conversation. You know, he's just talking to somebody, and the guy's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were that way." There's a thug somewhere in Arkham Knight that's like that, and that's it.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Right.
Actually.
Right. But they do it in a way, and they don't shame the person for not knowing, and they're like, you know, yeah, me and my partner, blah blah blah. But what the Suicide Squad did is it takes that subtlety, and they're like, that's not good enough. And then they crank it all the way past the point of no return to the point where that becomes the entire thing of the game. Like, it's all about race, it's all about sexuality, it's all about
instead of focusing
politics,
on the fact that, you know, somebody's trying to kill you and you have to solve that problem, now it's all about your personal life or your ethnicity or something, and it's all about that instead of just like, then where did the story go? The original story was you guys were supposed to be different kinds of people working together to solve this problem. Now the original problem doesn't even exist. Now everything is just like about, you know, focusing on the differences of people instead of just the fact that they were supposed to be working together to solve this problem.
Exactly. And like I said, and the guy's name is Jay Olivia, by the way. Just like Jay Olivia did with the Suicide Squad movie, the animated one, the one that was set in the Arkhamverse originally, and then they had to decanonize it. But when Jay Olivia was writing the script and taking these characters, he had played the Arkham games. He didn't play them through to completion, but he knew the characters. He knew what Paul Dini did with the characters. And he was like, you know what? I'm not too well versed in this world, but I'm going to give my shot. I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going to do my best with it and see what happens. And for the most part, what he did with the characters was spot on to the Arkham games, even though he wasn't a hardcore Arkham person. But he saw what was set before him with these characters and how he thought these characters would respond in an animated movie, and he just gave it an R rating.
Yeah.
He basically took those T-rated characters and he darkened them enough to be R-rated. And he did a phenomenal job. Like, it feels like the Suicide Squad characters from the Arkham games in that movie. It's just they're a lot more, not just edgy, but very extreme.
Well, I mean, like, when you were talking about, like, gamers getting upset or, like, their criticisms, I was just thinking about several times where I've been going over comments and stuff, and somebody has, like, started writing paragraphs to you about how they disagree, and it's been pretty forceful, and I've been like, Luke, I, like, screenshot it, and I'm like, should I ban this person, or should I time them out? Should I delete this comment? What should I do? And, like, you look over it, and then you're like, nah, that's just them being gamers. Like, that's fine. I'll respond to them. So, like, I think it's kind of interesting, like, how you said, like, with these people that ran Sweet Baby Incorporated and Rocksteady, and then the fans were, like, arguing with them and being like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? It kind of reminded me of when there's been some people that have been very forceful, and I've been like, whoa, this person seems really intense. Like, maybe I should delete this comment or ban this person. This person seems out of their mind. And then I show you the comment, and you're like, oh, nah, they're just really passionate about this. Like, I'll take care of it. And you, like, respond to them. And you're completely fine, because you know, because you're a gamer like them. You understand where they're coming from. Like, you're also passionate about it. So I just thought, you probably don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I understand what you're talking about.
But I'm just saying,
I have
like,
done that, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that. Like, if those people really were gamers, then they would probably know where the fans were coming from with their criticisms. But the fact that they're not gamers, it sounds crazy to them when they're getting upset. Like, why did you change Superman's cape? Like,
why are you getting upset over these fictional characters?
Yeah, the way they're responding to them is like, they're not really gamers. Like, they cannot relate to them. They cannot relate to the people that are talking to them. Whereas, like, Iwata and stuff, like, he knows. Like, he's a gamer and he's making, you know, he's running a company, or
this is, unfortunately, this is where we are in the Western gaming world right now, is people they see not only criticism, but when they see their fans are upset because of the people who are working in the game industry and who are not gamers, like they didn't grow up with 90s games or even 2000s, like they, not even Xbox people, you know, and they think that they can act and behave however they want because that's how it was when they were in the comic book industry, or that's how it was when they were on television or film. And they don't have the mindset of how gamers are, or they've never actually experienced what it is to play a game to feel frustration or feel attachment to characters.
Exactly.
Because the thing is about video games that most game developers in Japan and Asia realize, in China, is that people get invested into these character stories because video game stories are much longer in comparison to television and movies. And even comic books.
Yeah.
A good video game story can last for 30 hours. So as you're playing these characters, and sometimes even when you weren't, like, you know, getting voice acted for them, there were so many people around the world that fell in love with Aerith and Tifa and Cloud and Barrett just from written dialogue and spending time with these polygon characters. It's not like these characters became real people to them, but it's just as people got excited reading books.
Yeah, it's like reading a book where you're imagining what they would look like in real life.
You become invested into these characters, and you love them. You really like them being around, and you want to see them, you know, if it's a hero's journey, you want to be there for that journey and see where they go and what happens to them. And if there's a cliffhanger, you're excited for the next book, and you're going to pick up the next book to see where it picks up. And that's why Final Fantasy has been so successful in a lot of JRPGs, is because these stories are about these characters that not only you want to root for, but you want to see their story come to completion, as well as you really want, you have that particular favorite character that you just see yourself in. It's not that you see it as a relatable character, but you really like that character because it's like, hey, this character to me feels like, you know, something that I've gone through, and, you know, I like how they approach that. And the Western stuff, they tell you how to think. They tell you what character that you're supposed to like or dislike. They chart everything out for you, and you're not allowed to think for yourself.
That is what I like about some Japanese anime and JRPGs, is they just tell the story, and they don't tell you what you're supposed to think about it. They don't tell you the conclusion you're supposed to make. Like, you can reach your own conclusion. Like, here's what happened to these characters. This is what the story is. Now you can decide what do you think was right or wrong? Who do you think did this character make a mistake? It's kind of you to judge what happened. You have your own, then you can have your own opinion on it. Like, well, I don't know if, you know, like, you know, I don't know if that character should have done that. You know, I don't know if they, you know, I do like how, like, in anime and JRPGs, that sometimes the main character will do something that's, like, really wrong, or, like, make a horrible mistake. Whereas in American movies, or in a American game, the main character can do no wrong. Like, you're told who the main character is, and everything they do is perfect. Whereas in Japanese stories, the main character can make a horrible mistake, and they're still the main character, even though they're flawed, you know. So,
that's because in America, or in the Western market, they don't know how to make flawed characters, because when they make the characters, they're just doing, like, this weird, there's nothing wrong with my character. My character's perfect.
Yeah, like, how I got so upset about Cloud, like, where he hurt Tifa, that was, like, bothering me so much. I got so bothered by that. It actually changed my entire perspective on Cloud. I was, like, so thinking Cloud was so great, and then when he did that, I just didn't like him anymore. And, like, people were mad at me about that. But, like, I mean, the game allowed me to make my own decision about what I thought about it. It didn't tell me what to think. I had to figure it out, what I thought, you know.
Wait, was he the radio guy?
Whoops.
Oh. I think we messed up. Whoopsies!
Whoops.
Which one was the guy with the radio? Dang it. The funny thing is, there used to be a lot of Western works that they did the hero's journey very well, and they made characters that were flawed, like The Lord of the Rings and Chronicles of Narnia and like a lot of early comic books. And then for some reason, like, the perception of these characters changed from these characters are perfect, there's no problems. And that's the problem people had with the all new different Marvel, like the you know, that era of comic books where they made all these replacements for popular characters, and then they acted like these replacements were better than the originals, and these replacements were in a sense perfect. They had no problems. They, you know, they could champion whatever cause they wanted.
Yeah.
And if you complained about them online, then you have a problem with these characters internally because of their skin color, because of their sexuality. But they were not flawed characters. They were not interesting characters. They were bored characters that were super OP and whatever. You know? And then DC did the same thing. DC's problem was always their characters were so overpowered, but they had such very well-written storylines. Like, Batman's stories were like very engaging, and they sucked you into the world, and you were there for the mystery, or you were there for you know, Batman's inner struggle. But then when they started doing things with Batman and they took away his wealth, and they had him doing these inner monologues where he's trying to rationalize that it's okay to loot and steal and how that's not a crime anymore, they were taking elements of Batman that they didn't like, and they were cherry picking him out. Just like how there are groups that literally rip pages out of the Bible that offend them, and then they're kind of like, okay, I like the Bible more now because when I read it, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Like, because I've taken the stuff out of the book that doesn't apply to me, even though they're supposed to read the whole book, and the stuff that offends them is supposed to offend them because they're being convicted of their sin. Right?
Yeah.
So the same goes for, like, the Batman stories. When people are reading a Batman story they don't like, or they don't like an aspect of Batman, it's because you're not supposed to like that aspect of him. You're supposed to be kind of like, I don't really like this, but you're just supposed to leave it alone.
It just shows that he's a flawed. He either is a flawed character, or it could be something like that he's super like tough with his workout routine or something, and you might be like, man, I'm sitting here on the couch. Like, it could be either one, like something he's doing better than you, or something he's meaner than you, like the way he's like with Robin and really harsh to him. Yeah, it's like they're just people. That's what I don't like about the Suicide Squad characters, is like, instead of them just being flawed, like, instead of them just doing bad things and being like, oh, I killed this guy, and, you know, he was crying for mercy, but I just killed him, like how the thugs did in Arkham, where they just showed they were bad people. They did the wrong thing. It clearly showed they did the wrong thing. I would have liked the Suicide Squad members to do that, and it clearly showed they're bad guys. But instead, like, Harley had a rationale for everything. Well, I'm blowing up that guy because he's a man, and men are toxic.
Yeah.
And it's totally irrational for me to do that. But then when you said, like, if she would have just blown up a guy, and he would have been like, I have a family, please don't hurt me, and she's like, I don't like you because you're a man. I hate all men. I'm killing all of them. It was like, please don't hurt me. What about my wife and kids? And then she blows them up. Now that would have been like, oh wow, Harley, you're crazy. Like, I would have been
on
brand. I would have been more watching that,
Yeah.
because it shows that she's a bad person. But then her pretending as though it's okay to kill a man because he's a man is crazy talk. It's like brainwashing, trying to tell you that it. I mean, what kind of influence do you think that could have on some people playing this? I mean, there could be someone playing this game, and years later, them have an opportunity to hurt a man and be like, you know what? Maybe this will be okay if I stab this guy because he's a man after all. Like, I mean, it will subliminally get into your head. Like, I just don't think it's healthy to have those kind of weird subliminal messages in games.
Well, the thing is,
that's messed up.
Like,
you know,
Tara Strong is not a militant, like, feminist. Like, she's happily married. She's got kids. You know, she's done all this stuff. But the character that she portrayed for Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad was the exact opposite of the Harley Quinn that she's always played. Like,
yeah, and even even in real life, I think she looks more like Harley Quinn when we actually saw her.
Mm-hmm.
She looks more like Harley Quinn, Arkham, from the Arkham Knight and Arkham City. She's very curvy and very girly, and I think she would look great in the original Harley Quinn outfit. She's very pretty. I don't think
She
that
has cosplayed.
I don't think she would. I don't think that she would have a problem wearing that outfit in real life. I
No,
mean,
she has worn it.
So
She's
there you
worn
go.
it at conventions.
So there you go. Like her character, looking at that outfit and her voicing that character, going, "This outfit is so sexist," is odd since in real life she is a girly girl. She is curvy. She does not look like a boy character model in real life. In real life, she actually is a curvy woman who is very pretty.
Yep. And the funny thing is, like, the thing that I find so weird about the game industry is, while the Batman games are not supposed to be rated M, right? For the most part, except for the Arkham Knight game and the Suicide Squad, the games were always charted as vehicles for adults. And adults do like some saucy stuff in their games. So the developers sometimes will throw a bone, like Catwoman's outfit in Arkham City or Harley Quinn's, different outfits. The entire game isn't about sexism. They just give people like a little dash of spice. But the reason why they do that is because it's supposed to be an adult game. The problem I have with this group of people, and I don't mean to throw my own religion under the bus, but in the 90s, we had a problem with censorship because of Christian groups, and woke people are kind of like in their own cult of censorship. Like they really believe that there's a problem with attractive characters and all this other stuff, what they call gooner material and all this other stuff. But the Christians and the Christian groups always had a problem with the sexism and sexualization of characters in video games. And what's weird to me is the people who are atheist and anti-religion and all this other stuff, the woke people, they took the same argument from the Christian side. And the Christian side, what was interesting about the 90s is they did compromise. They didn't go out of their way to make sure that every single game that had spicy material never made it to market. They made sure that the stuff that was inappropriate got rated M because it was made for adults, so they wanted to make sure, And if it was T-rated, especially Nintendo would actually listen to some type of censorship with them, and they would, do a little bit here and there. They wouldn't do a lot. They would just do a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
And the problem with the past 4 years or 5 years with this group is they were extreme censorship for even adult-rated or M-rated games. It wasn't just the T-rated games. They went after everything in every market.
It's like the difference between saying like, oh, well, you can look at this when you're older, like, with the religious or Christian groups were saying that, like, more like, okay, this is rated M, you can look at this when you're older.
Yeah, this should only be for rated M or whatever.
And then, but like these groups with the, with the activist people, were mainly hate religious people, hate Christians.
They took their stance.
Made
it extreme.
They don't say you can look at this character model when you're older. They say you can never look at this character model ever.
Yep.
Or you're a horrible human being.
How dare you? But then at the same time, you go to their Twitter profile and they're like drooling over furries or, the same sex. It's okay when they do it, but...
It's okay for them. Yeah, exactly. It's okay for them to have their fetish, but for men to like attractive women is somehow wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, how does this make any sense? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. That's hypocritical.
It is, but they don't understand that they're literally walking hypocrites and contradictions. That's what's funny about these people is they have no idea how moronic that they really are. They just don't.
Yeah, and also like the religious people, there was a reason why they believed that it would lead.
Well,
they would believed it would lead people into doing something that they shouldn't be doing until they're older, teenagers.
They were worried about a bunch of stuff.
Whereas these people, what is it really going to, if they don't even believe in religion at all, they don't believe in God at all, who is it going to hurt? Who's going to be hurt for, they don't believe God exists, then who's going to be hurt for someone looking at Harley Quinn's character model? Who's it going to hurt? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. They're absolutely doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Wait, was this all one level? Did I screw up or is there more? Okay, there is more. Yeah, it never... See, I always try to think about it logically, like the argument, like, okay, why would they have a problem with this if this is how they act on their actual timeline on Twitter? Like, all of them say this, but here they are, if they're gay or whatever, they're drooling over Tomb Raider or like Batman without a shirt or something. But then they're ready to point the finger at other people for liking something that's not even like... They actually make it more perverted than the people that they say are perverts.
Yeah, exactly. They make it even weirder than
right.
Like with the Arkham games and stuff. Like Tara Strong looks smexy, but you know she's not doing any like NC-17 dialogue in the game.
No.
She's not leaning. She's not slurping. She's not leaning over anyone, and you know she's not doing any kind of thing to anyone. She's not, you know, she's not doing anything. Like she's just standing there. Like so, that's really not that bad.
Yeah. So like the most important thing that any game like industry person can learn, hopefully, as things kind of go back to normal, is like you have to take a page out of how Asia does their games and stuff, because they understand their core audience and what their core audience likes. And they don't... The thing is, if you're making a game that is supposed to have global appeal, and you want to add, you know, certain things into the game to appease, like, certain people, or be like, okay, you know, we're gonna add like these really saucy costumes that you have to pay for, or whatever. That's one thing, you know. It also, you're making people pay for it, so it's not like it's a default thing. And like, it's one thing to do that, but then to turn around and then, you know, basically chastise people for buying what you made is weird. So, yeah, Japanese people and Chinese people, when they make their games, they make stuff that has global appeal, and they do add certain things into the game, but they do it tastefully. It's not like it's like R-rated or anything like that if it's a T-rated game.
You know, I was just thinking about the fact that actually the Arkham games are pretty respectful to women, because
they have big roles in the games.
They have huge roles, but also, if you think about it, the one girl who is, you know, helping Batman, Barbara Gordon, she's not sexualized really at all. She's very pretty, but she's not wearing a saucy costume at all.
She's just wearing a bat suit.
She's just doing her job.
Yeah.
Like, she's just doing her job. It's the bad girls that have the saucy costumes, which, you know, like, if the Arkham games were degrading to women, then Barbara Gordon would be forced to wear a degrading outfit, and she's not. It's only the bad girls that are wearing it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. Their argument is this will harm real women, even though it never does. It harms...
But if you think about it, it clearly shows that all of the women that wear, you know, showing, you know, whatever, like with their shirt down and everything, it's their choice to wear that. If their character, it's their choice. Like, they're not being forced to wear that. Like if every woman in the game was portrayed as like an object, then it would be one thing. But that's not true. There's plenty of women that are just walking around with normal clothes, and Barbara Gordon mainly just wears normal clothes. She's not trying to attract anyone. She's doing her job. Yeah. And she's respected for just doing her job. And there's no problem. So that just proves that it's not degrading to women at all.
Yep. Exactly. But I mean, the problem with the Western gaming market is they don't know how to compromise, because if they compromise, then they see it as that they gave in to toxicity. And, you know, so they have to go to extremes in order to, you know, keep their religion or their point of view strong, because if they do anything that the other side is saying, hey, you know, we'd like to see this, or we like attractive characters, and they go out of their way to make somebody really ugly, and then their game fails, then they can play victim and be like, okay, people didn't do this because they hate real women, and real women look like this, which is like, no, they don't.
They look like Jabba the Hutt.
They look like Jabba the Hutt, or they look like
Oh my god.
they're burn victims or something.
It's like-
they liposuction gone wrong.
That's what I mean. That's what we had this discussion. Like, I think months ago, there was a lot of girls in the chat, and they were saying we were talking about Suicide Squad, and they were saying that, like, when they say this is what real women look like, it's kind of
Real women that work
it's kind
at
of
their
like
office.
insulting, because it's like you're saying this is how you see most women. Like, this is what, like, it's just. I mean, that's degrading to women, to make them look like, you know, just like the most hideous monster you can ever think of, and then you put them in a dress, and then you say, this is what women look like to me. It's like, so you're saying you think women are monsters that look hideous. I mean, what are you saying? I mean, that's degrading. You're
Yeah.
saying that you don't think women are beautiful, or you don't think they have any value, you think they're worthless. That's what it says when you make them look like monsters, and their face is all messed up, and it just looks terrible. Like, you're saying you don't think women are beautiful, you don't think that they're lovely, you think that they look like monsters. It's crazy.
Yep, it's been a weird time, but I think that I'm a firm believer that things are changing slowly but surely, and you're gonna see less of these studios shaming other studios for, like, somebody making like Black Myth Wukong or someone making Stellar Blade. They're losing their foothold, not just in like the market for creation, but also the game journalists are losing so many people, because all they've been doing is making it's almost like they're in communication with each other, because the game is a certain way, and then you have the game journalists reinforcing that belief and stuff, and shaming people for having the opposite viewpoint of, like, basically they then turn around and they say, okay, people are like, we want more attractive stuff in games, and then the journalists will take that and they'll write a whole article why it's wrong to have sexism in gaming and why you shouldn't have attractive characters. So it's like they see what the game developers are doing. This is why this is a cult mindset.
Yeah.
This is why I hate the woke thing, is because, like, they pick it up from different aspects of the entertainment that they control, and,
Yeah,
and
no,
make
I've
make no
seen
mistake, they control it.
Oh yeah,
They're not they're telling you that they're the victims. They're in control. They're in power.
It's like a whole brainwashing network or
Right. So
something.
what they do is they say something, like a game developer says something, and then the game journalists will write this scathing article making fun of one group, but also reinforcing the belief of the game developer. Like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
that never happened.
It's like they're trying to, like, back up their friends.
Kind of, yeah.
It's like their friend says something crazy online, like, oh yeah, like dog aliens exist, and then they write an article. You know, it's not too far-fetched that dog aliens might exist. Here's why.
But the thing is, honey,
It's like they literally take what they ranted about on Twitter, and then they write an article and make it more professional.
when I was a game journalist, I don't remember ever hearing from my boss when I had to write an article saying, okay, this Japanese person just talked about their game in an interview and I need a transcript, but at the same time, I need you to take whatever political opinion he said and I need you to put that as the focal point of our thing. What I was told to do is, if there was something that happened at Tokyo Game Show or something, Steve would say, okay, I need a transcript of this, and I need to know what he was talking about. Like, what were the game features? Where's the
Yeah.
game being set? When is the game coming
Right.
out? Did they
Just the-
tease the release
just
date?
the part, right?
What are
not-
the mechanics?
Not
What are the
opinion
characters?
of the game. It wasn't. You guys weren't concentrating on the opinion of the game developer. You're concentrating on the actual game.
Mm-hmm.
The actual, like, what is the game about?
Exactly.
Like-
And over the years, like, a lot of this was pushed by the pandemic, but over the years what's happened is, like, the wrong people got into the game industry. And I 100% believe in gatekeeping. I think it's very important that you hire people in the field that they belong in. And I've seen what happens when you hire people that are not gamers, because gamers are a certain tribe of people. Everyone in this chat can name one genre that is their absolute favorite type of game. Whether it's an RPG, a racing game, a fighting game, an action game, a mystery game, a point and click, it doesn't matter. There is someone here in the chat that can defend to the death their favorite genre. And they can talk about it in passion, and they can also critique elements of it that they don't like about their favorite genre. But every single person here not only has a favorite game that they grew up playing, but they also have a favorite genre. And the problem is the people that are representing us and making products for us don't have that. So they don't have that mindset of a gamer. And a gamer is not only very creative, but also we can think about things that we want to see happen in the games.
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you were saying.
Or what make them better.
Because I was thinking about when I was in my degree for music, and I got my associates in music, and they were telling me all the things I could go in for music therapy, opera, choir, teaching, everything. They talked about being an opera critic, and I thought this would be great. I could totally do that. And they said, well, you're going to need a whole 5 years and maybe 8 years of music. You're going to need to learn how to play every instrument. You have to know everything about opera. You have to know everything about music and composition to be a composition or opera critic. I thought that's so interesting that in music, to be a critic for opera or music, you have to know everything about music. You have to know how to play everything. You have to know how to conduct. You have to know everything there is. You have to actually have a degree in playing all the instruments before you're allowed to critique them. So, it just makes so much sense that to be a game journalist, you should know how to play all the games before you're allowed to critique them.
Well, in the game,
it's just normal.
Back in the day, if you were not well versed in a certain genre, you weren't allowed to cover it. Because we had on our website, one of the websites I worked for, we had an RPG section, we had an action section, we had a fighting game section, and we had a portable section because my boss couldn't really care about. All Game Boy Advance and DS games are basically the same, so they're in the portable section, and we'll put PS Portable over there as well. And then he says, then you have the FPS section. So the website was broken up into different genres. And you would never have the guy who plays fighting games review an RPG.
Yeah.
He would sometimes be like, okay, Luke, you know about RPGs, so I need you to do Dante's Inferno. Or, Luke, you really like fighting games. Can you look at Street Fighter, Super 4 or whatever? He would take me and put me into different things because I play all genres.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was trying to be like the game journalists that I grew up with, like Nintendo Power and stuff like that, where they would actually have different people to give different perspectives, but they loved all types of genres anyway because it didn't matter the game. They were excited to play it because it was something new and exciting. Even this channel, look at all the genres we do. We don't just do action games. We do RPGs. We do racing games. We do strategy games. We do puzzle games. We do a wide spectrum of games.
The way the game journalists are today is messed up because in music, to be a music critic, you cannot just get a journalist degree and then critique music. You're not allowed to. You have to have a music degree and a journalist degree. You'd have to have, and it doesn't even matter if you have a journalist degree. The main thing you need is a music degree. That's what's happening in the gaming industry. You're just getting a journalist degree and you don't have a degree in playing games. You don't have any experience in gaming.
You're writing about games and you don't care about games, and also most importantly, they don't like gaming culture. They see when somebody rages in a game or somebody is getting very passionate and they're grilling each other or roasting each other. They see that as toxicity when that's just a normal part of our gaming culture. That's how we discuss things. Sometimes we razz on each other, and if they're on a losing team or something like that. In the game industry, it's not a place where everyone gets a participation trophy. There's winners and losers in everything. It's how you deal with losing that's important. It's not about okay, everybody played the game, and everyone is going to get treated the same. That's not how it works. And that's the mentality that a lot of these people are coming into our field. They don't understand because they're coming from a type of job where everyone is basically, they're all being successful, or they're all on the winning side, even when they're not. And gaming is not like that. even in games themselves, when you play a game, you play the game to win. If you're playing a platformer game, there's a clear objective that you have to do.
Yeah,
you have to get to the end of the level.
Like how they just said, like that one game journalist wrote that article about Marvel Rivals and said, I feel this game isn't good because I won't have enough time to learn all these characters, and it's daunting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so you're bad at the game, so you're saying that the game is
skill issue,
good.
yeah.
That's weird. Like, I was just thinking about that. Like when I listen to like when I've looked at people like critiquing like or showing or showcasing opera or like symphony orchestra and stuff, they introduce the people that are commentating on it, and they'll be like, this person has conducted this orchestra and they have played as fifth violin for 10 years. Like, that would be their requirement. Is not they have a degree in journalism. That is not the requirement for critiquing the opera. The requirement is, what did they do in music? What did they do in music-wise, that qualifies them? So, like, I feel like these game journalists, instead of being like, I have worked for this publication, that doesn't qualify you to critique a game. That qualifies you to write a storybook. But what have you done in gaming? Your qualifications should be, what games have you beaten?
Right, but
like not what good could you write? It should be, what games have you beaten? How many games have you played?
The thing is, like I told people, because people were talking about college a little while ago or getting a degree, and they're like, so how did you get into the game industry? It's like, I had a passion, and I was at the right place at the right time because I had no college degree. I have no journalism degree. I had nothing. And, like, I was working on a forum site that happened to be a guy who, you know, was an editor at another publication. He was looking for people, and he gave me a chance. He let me write one review of a game. He really liked my style. He liked my humor. He liked how I presented, you know, the stuff about the game, because obviously, you know, I would tell people, okay, this is what I thought about this game. This was the gameplay. This was the story. This, you know, it was just very basic stuff, and I added a lot of levity and humor to make the audience laugh, because that's what Nintendo Power was. Nintendo Power was a very humorous approach to game reviews, and I wanted to bring that from the pages of the magazine to the internet. And when I did that, you know, I got the job, even though I had no degree. I had no training to be a journalist.
In reality, like that,
I had the spark.
In reality, like when people from IGN and stuff write on their profile like, oh, I'm reviewing this game, their qualifications shouldn't be like, I work for this publication and then this one. Their qualifications should be like, I have a wide variety of, you know, I know a lot of knowledge. I've been gaming for this many years, and I have a wide variety of these type of games that I'm familiar with. And, you know, maybe if you like won some good competitions, or you could even be like, I beat Ninja Gaiden or whatever. Like, that should be your qualification. Like, what games have you beaten that are hard?
Right,
that should actually be what they say in their bio, instead of what publications they work for.
When I was a game journalist in 2004, and up until like I think it was like around 2012, we started to omit this stuff from our bios. But like, when you would go to an author or about a section and you want to see who worked on the website, right?
Yeah.
You were told to write like a funny, like 4-sentence introduction about you and the type of games you like and what your favorite game is, what your pet peeves are, because you're trying to get the reader to like you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I wrote, like, somebody asked me, what is your favorite NES game? And I said Kickmaster, and they're like, what's that? I said, I don't actually know where Kickmaster came from, but I just love it. It's like Castlevania, where the dude just kicks monsters. It was really cool. So, you know, I had that as my favorite NES game. And then for my least favorite game, I had, I think it was Bayou Billy or something like that. But when people came to the website, they could see that the person who was actually representing them, because that's what a game journalist used to be. It used to be someone that represented the gaming audience, and that who they could trust to make a very like objective opinion about the game that they're interested in buying, because our job was to save people money if the game was bad, and to break their wallet if the game was good, because, you know, gamers buy a lot of games. It's different than people who go to the movie theater. Gamers are actually a consumer group that buy more products than most fandoms.
It's weird because almost every industry except for gaming is like that, because even think about like people who write articles on gardening. I was just thinking about this. They talk about how long they've had a garden and what kind of things they've grown. They don't talk about how well they are at writing an article. They don't talk about what journalist companies they work for. They actually talk about like how many years they've done gardening.
Mm-hmm.
Like most industries, when you're writing an article, you wouldn't talk about what journalist companies you work for. You talked about how good you are at that field you're writing about.
Yep. So
it's just weird that gaming is weird.
We rag on IGN, but IGN back in the day, like IGN's Nintendo team, their profiles said things like, you know, hi, my name is Craig, and my favorite game is I love, you know, Super Mario Brothers 2, and I like it for this reason, and I don't like guacamole or something. You know, they kept it pretty simple.
Yeah, but in reality, that's better qualifications than the game journalists today, because they actually showed that they care about games.
Right, but also the thing is that's missing in the game industry today, especially from people who report it, is they're coming from other fields, and they're using gaming as like a stepping stone, and they don't care what happens while they're in the game industry. They're just trying to use that as a way to further their resume. And those are the wrong people to have in the game industry, because people who are coming into the game industry are supposed to be people that love it, and they not only love our culture, but also they want to add to it. When I was a game journalist and I was working for, and I did moonlight with 3 publications because, you know, it didn't pay very well. But like I knew that I was representing like thousands of people who were coming to our website to find if a game is good or good or bad. And I was going to take my job seriously, but at the same time too, you know, I wanted to do something like the really popular publications, which was write funny reviews.
You have a super chat.
Okay.
Riker, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Riker Jeffrey, love you guys since your original Arkham Silent series. Keep up the great work. God bless. Thank you, Riker.
Thank you, Riker, for the super chat. Appreciate that.
And Riker says the least I could, no problem after the great content of the year. Over the years, it's the least I could do. God bless you too, Riker. Thank you so much. Thank you for your help.
Yeah, nowadays people go to YouTube reviewers. The reason why you go to YouTube reviewers over, like, you know, publications and stuff is because you as an audience, you're there for the person's personality. You like that person, their mannerisms, you like their jokes, you like how they present information about games, and it furthers your excitement for video games or comic books or whatever. You find a personality that you like and you migrate toward that. Yeah. And how we used to attract people back in the day was your writing style. Based on your writing style, you were either known as like a comedic journalist, you were known as an informational person, or you were a person that ranted and used a lot of swear words. There was like an archetype for writing styles. I tended to be on both the informational. I like to interject like a little bit of history about the game, as well as like make it funny, make it something that was entertaining, not just for people to watch, but also for people to read. Because while I was making video reviews on my own, like for YouTube, and not really being paid for that, I was actually being paid, you know, peanuts for doing like how many paragraphs did I have to write? I don't remember. It was like, it was a
lot of work. I don't know.
It was a lot of work, and the pay wasn't very good, but I had a lot of passion for it. So, like, I would do the write-ups when somebody would ask me for it, and I was juggling, I was basically juggling things. I was doing the write-ups while I was doing the video reviews, the retro stuff, and then eventually I was doing the Let's Plays with Amber, and eventually I had to come to a conclusion that I can't do the writing anymore, because the Arkham stuff took off like a firecracker, for one. And then it was just kind of like, okay, I need to make a decision. Like, what are we going to do going forward? Because I can't do all that.
Chad says that, he was saying, like, something about game journalists. Applying for game journalists. I beat Contra on NES. Hired, says Chad.
Exactly. Yep, and gamers always have, like, this really weird, like, like funny sense of humor usually, because like we have our own culture of jokes and things.
I think what's hard is you can get a degree in horticulture, which is gardening. You can get a degree in music.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a degree in archaeology. You can get a degree in architecture, and you can be a journalist in all those fields. But you can't really get a degree in... You cannot go to a 5-year school of just playing video games for 5 years and then get a certificate at the end that says, I have a degree in video games, and I have a comprehensive view of all video games that have ever been made. There is no degree in video games, so...
There might be now.
Because of that, like, I mean, there's a degree in making them, but there's not a degree in playing them and having a comprehensive view of them. So the only thing that can give you qualifications is really you getting to know the people at the publication and explaining to them that you have a good idea of games. So I feel like that's why you have all these people coming in that just have that just have journalist degrees and no knowledge of gaming whatsoever. Because they're literally taking advantage of the fact that you can't get a degree in gaming. In a way, you can get a degree in gaming. It's a degree of life. It's something you can only learn in life. You have to sit down and play the games literally one by one yourself. You have to do it on your own time. You have to get an idea. You have to research it on your own and get an idea of it. And like you said, that's what the qualifications used to be. You used to be hired based on you knowing games and game culture and knowing the jokes and knowing the memes and everything. And now you're not now you're hired based on what journalist degree you have. So this kind of reminds me of like when you were talking about how these people have no knowledge about gaming whatsoever, yet they're critiquing the games. It reminds me of Amadeus. I know I love music, so this is why I'm always relating to it. But in the movie Amadeus, and Mozart, one of the greatest composers that ever has lived, and Salieri critiques his symphony, and he says, it has too many notes. He's critiquing Mozart. He's, like, not very good at music at all. Like, you know, and he's telling Mozart that he needs to change his symphony. Mozart, who's, like, one of the greatest composers that ever lived of all time, that he needs to change for someone who has literally not even 1,000th the skill as him in music at all. And that's the problem. Like, these game journalists are like literally critiquing games, and they do not even have, like, they're saying, well, these are how games should be for, you know, gamers. Like, that's what they're saying in their critique, but they don't have any skill at all to back up. They don't have any knowledge or comprehensive, like, idea of the gaming industry. They don't know what makes a good game. Just like Salieri, he doesn't know what makes a good symphony because he's not a very good composer.
Yeah. So back in the day,
it doesn't make any sense.
I like to say back in the day, but when I was a journalist, it was important for us, like when because we're trying to, you know, talk to our people, like gamers. When you were writing stuff, the editor would be like, okay, this is good work, but he says you didn't really reference what this game is based in that genre. Like, there's no examples to make people understand what you're talking about, because you're talking about the game itself and you're reviewing it that way. But how does this game compare to other, like, if I did a FPS game, which I was not very, you know, familiar with,
right.
You'd be like, okay, so you have these mechanics here and stuff like that. And I love your writing style. I like the jokes, everything, pop culture references, you know, muy fantastic or whatever. But he says, are you sure that these things that you say are brand new to this genre are new to the genre? Did you reference to see if this happened in Halo or GoldenEye or any of that? And then I'd be like, in an email back to the guy, I'd be like, no, I actually didn't cross-reference. I can make those changes and see, you know, if this mechanic was actually used in another shooter game, and make like a little nod to it so that, you know, gamers don't flay us alive.
Right.
And it turned out one of the mechanics that I actually thought was brand new to a game called The Conduit, which I did a write-up for, was not from The Conduit. So I had to basically add that little citation that, okay, you know, The Conduit uses this type of mechanic, but this was first utilized in Halo 2, or something like that. It just, these little dashes that we would implement into our writing would show that we were authorities in our field, that we knew what we were talking about. But sometimes we made mistakes, and our editor, who was a gamer, would be able to catch it. especially if that editor was really big into like first-person shooters and action games. Nowadays, the difference is it's a stark contrast because they don't do that. What they do is they complain about aspects of the game that don't exist. Like they talk about diversity, or they talk about not enough women in the game, or they talk about not enough woke stuff. And they're not actually looking at the video game as a whole. What people don't understand is every game you play is either good for the genre that it's associated with, or it's bad. So when I was critiquing Arkham Origins the way I did for 10 years or longer, is I was comparing the Arkham game to what existed in other Arkham games, and I was using that as a blueprint and a roadmap of explaining why Arkham Origins had problems. I wasn't just looking at Arkham Origins as a game itself. I was basing it on everything that was associated with the franchise that was a part of,
and that,
which is what I was supposed to do.
Right, and that actually gives people... That's almost like giving yourself, like if I was, like, in debate class or something, it's like a site... it's like you're giving yourself evidence. That's the evidence that you have that you're proving your point. Like,
well, because I was trained to do that.
Because it's like oh, and this game is building up of other games that have come before it, but it's helping, it improved this mechanism. And then you reference them like, oh, this was a game that came before that had a similar mechanism, but this improved on it. And so that like shows that you're giving evidence to your point, proving that, you're correct on this, because you're actually proving it with evidence of older games and showing how it's improving it.
If you're making a game that's associated with a popular franchise like Assassin's Creed, I don't think it's a problem to bring up past Assassin's Creed games to see if the game holds up. Like the new game holds up to the old ones. And what's been happening with these weirdos who are in the game industry, I've read their reviews. When they do a review of a brand new game, they just talk about the game itself.
Yeah. Like
they don't... If it's a part of a franchise, or if it's a genre that's very popular, they don't look at other games in the genre to see if the game holds up. They're just looking at one lens.
Yeah. And they even make fun of people who reference old games. I mean, in some of our videos in which we talked about like the game mechanics between Spider-Man and Batman, we got so many people mad at us. They're like, why are you comparing it to other games? It's like...
It's an action game and it's a superhero genre.
We were comparing it to Spider-Man and Batman games because both of those games are super popular. And, like, they have some combat things from Spider-Man and Arkham games.
They share some similarities.
Like, it's just... and then they're like, why are you comparing it to this? It's, like, hurting my feelings. It's like, why would it hurt your feelings? It's so odd that... Yeah, I even have heard some people recently said I like all newer games and I hate all older games because I just think people should just play new games because I think all old games are bad. I mean, I even heard a viewer say that recently, and I know that's probably from watching game journalists and stuff, but it's like the reason why you reference old games is not to say like, oh, well, old games were better. It's basically to explain how does this, like, if you were making an art project or something, then you would probably like think about like, how does this add value to like the art world? Like, would you hang this up in the Louvre? Would you hang this up in an art museum? I'm saying like, is this game a quality game compared to all of the other games that came before it? Does this add to the gaming industry as like a quality game, like a fun game to play that's a piece of art that's enjoyable to play and to watch and an interesting story? So that's why you would reference other games. Like,
and you're also going to be playing it for years to come because games are very expensive.
Yeah, you just saying, I think that this should just add more cats and women into it is just stupid because you don't have a reference. Why should it add more cats and women? Is it in reference to the story, or you just think it should have more cats and women? Your personal opinion.
Yeah, but we're gonna wrap this up.
Exactly, like it's so weird.
Basically, my peers represented the average gamer.
Yeah.
The people today who are in the game industry who are writing and representing us, they don't represent us because they're not gamers and they don't even have the average gamer mindset. They don't put things in games that they think are cool. They put things in games because they think they have to. they go through a checklist and they check that off. And in the back of their mind, they're not worried if a game is fun. They've removed the word fun from their vocabulary because that doesn't matter to them. It's all about furthering an agenda. And that's not what gaming is. Gaming was never an agenda. Gaming was a place where people who don't really like movies, who don't really like comic books, who don't really watch a lot of TV, but they love, like, you know, putting themselves into these video game worlds that have like these massive long storylines and these likable characters and this fun gameplay, and they're, you know, made specifically for that customer. They're not made for people that like movies. They're not made for people that like books. They're made for people that like video games. And the problem is, in the West, they lost sight of that very simple, you know, thing that was charted out since the 80s.
Yeah.
Is like games were made for a certain type of people that like that stuff. It's not supposed to be mainstream. It's like not everyone that likes video games or hates video games is going to like, you know, all the other people have different tastes and different interests. So when they bleed in their interests that we don't care about, of course there's a backlash because they're running into a brick wall, which is us. We're immovable. We know what we like. We know what we want. We know what we're going to pay for. And then when they try to get us to budge, we don't move because we're a wall. And so all they're doing is they're just repeatedly hitting the wall over and over again, and then they're crying victim. They're cry bullies, basically. And when they go out of business, then they blame the wall for not moving, but the wall wasn't going to move to begin with because the wall already has set in its ways what it wants, what it expects, what genre it loves, what company it is, like, more of, like, you know, not just a fan of, but like the only company they'll buy. They're either Xbox, they're either Nintendo, they're either PC, you know, they're either PlayStation. They try to keep getting us to budge, and we don't budge. And the reason why you and I face so much persecution over the past 5 years is because we were, you know, we wouldn't budge on the things that we liked, and we wouldn't change to their mindset because we already have in store what we want, and we never ever brought up our personal beliefs and stuff like that in our gaming videos until they attacked us.
Right. Then we had, because then they said, like, you're evil, you know, you're Christians, and then we were like, okay, well, we are Christians, but we're, you know, you have us there, but I mean, we are just doing our job. We happen to be Christians, but we're just running a gaming channel. Like,
exactly. So, anyway, guys and gals, we hope you guys enjoyed tonight's discussion, and I was really happy that Amber came on. Hopefully, we can finish watching that anime as well as I'm gonna get my food that I had yesterday.
I'll watch an anime
because I'm hungry. The skin that you guys are seeing here, that is Earth 2 Thomas Wayne, and that will be your skin tomorrow. The plan tomorrow is 2 episodes of Donkey Kong, 1 episode of Dynasty Warriors Origins, because we're going to try to get early access to it. If we can't, then its release date is the 16th, I believe. I think it's either the 15th or the 16th. I'll have to double check. But there won't be a 10 a.m. stream on that, but there will be like a 6 o'clock or a probably 8 o'clock stream, because I like Amber being on the Donkey Kong, and I know Amber will be able to wake up and be like very excited for Dynasty Warriors because she loves hack and slash games. Like she just gets really into them.
I couldn't think of what game I liked. When you said everyone has a favorite game, all I could think about was Sonic, because I love Sonic.
So that would be a platformer genre then.
Yeah, but I feel like Sonic is its own genre.
It's a platformer. It's a very fast platformer. You can have genres of games, and then they can implement certain aspects to them that make them stand out. Like Mario is a very, you know, point A to point B type thing, you know, get to the end of the level. Sonic is, all right, we're going to take the platforming thing that Nintendo basically created, and we're going to take Sonic and make him super fast. And you might not have to get all the way to the right of the screen for the level to end. You might go upside down, or you might go underwater, or you might, you know, run across water, or you might go up the side of a building or whatever. Eventually you'll get to the end, but we're going to take you through all these loops and turns, and, you know, it's going to be fast-paced, and it's nothing like Mario.
Yeah.
So they took an existing genre, and they basically juiced it, more or less.
Yeah.
So then it became its own type of, this is a Sonic genre now. This is a platformer. It's a platformer, but, you know, they twisted it, they changed it. And that's what's so great about gaming, is you can take an action game like Assassin's Creed or whatever, and then turn that action-oriented style into a stealth game. And or, then if it's a really good game like Arkham, you could be like, all right, I can play the game stealth the whole time. I could play the game going up and punching people. I could hang out on gargoyles and grab people from above, or I could go down throwing my gadgets. There's lots of different ways that you could play Assassin's Creed and Batman games that make every time you play the game different and fun, that you keep coming back to it over and over again because you keep challenging yourself on how, you can approach it. But anyway, people, Earth 2 tomorrow, Donkey Kong twice, and the new Dynasty Warriors Origins, if we can get it tomorrow, for you guys. If not, we'll be doing 3 Donkey Kong streams. And then Dynasty Warriors Origin will be a full marathon on Friday. So we thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you for the super chats. And we hope you guys enjoyed tonight's stream. See you tomorrow.
See ya.
Thanks again for the super chat.